Chapter 590. Since Palace Master Lu has asked in such a manner, this emperor will properly explain it to you. Mainly, there are 3 points. Firstly, all transactions conducted within the empire by the Dragon King Hall will be exempt from taxes. The empire will not take a single cent of the profits, and all profits will belong to the Dragon King Hall. The Snowy Night Emperor took a sip of tea and said softly, "Oh." Lu Yuan was slightly surprised when he heard this. Exempting the Dragon King Hall from all taxes in the Heaven Do Empire was quite a generous offer. One must know that the annual transaction volume of the Dragon King Palace was absolutely a terrifying figure. Furthermore, when the Dragon King Palace conducted transactions in various kingdoms and provinces, they had to pay a certain amount of taxes to the various kingdoms and provinces. This sum of money was definitely not a small amount. With the Snowy Night Emperor's offer, the Dragon King Hall would be exempt from all taxes within the Heaven Do Empire. This would save a huge sum of money every year. This was a very tempting offer. The Snowy Night Emperor smiled when he saw the surprise on Lu Yuan's face. He continued, "Secondly, the empire will support all transactions conducted by the Dragon King Hall within the empire in the future. We will give priority to all transactions within the empire and waive all sorts of complicated processing fees. Furthermore, the empire will officially promote the Dragon King Hall's products." Is this the second benefit? Lu Yuan stroked his chin gently. Although the Dragon King Hall was developing well and had even expanded its trade to the Sionra Empire, it was still developing rapidly in the Heaven Do Imperial City because it had only been established for a year and had yet to gain a stable footing. However, the Dragon King Hall was not developing as well in other places as in the Heaven Do Imperial City. According to the Snowy Night Emperor's offer, the Dragon King Hall's development would enter a period of rapid growth. This condition was even more tempting than the first one. Thirdly, it's in terms of honor. I have decided to bestow upon Palace Master Lu the title of Golden Dragon King. He will be a first-class king and will be ranked above all officials. He will be able to enter the palace with a sword and will not have to bow before the emperor. At the same time, he will be given 5,000 households and 30,000 hectares of fertile land. The Snowy Night Emperor threw out his third condition before Lu Yuan could speak. When this condition was mentioned, not only did Lu Yuan narrow his eyes, but even Ning Fengji and Xue Qinghe had a trace of surprise in their eyes. The title of Golden Dragon King was even more exalted than that of Ning Fengji's teacher. The titles of nobility in the empire, from top to bottom, were generally given to dukes, earls, marquises, viscounts, and males. Other than the royal family, the title of king was basically not given to anyone else. And now, the Snow Night Emperor had not only bestowed Lu Yuan with the title of prince, but it was also the highest rank of first-class prince. His position was a bit high. Although it was just a title without any actual authority, the significance of this title was very significant. Not to mention, there were also 5,000 households and 30,000 hectares of fertile land. This was not a small amount of wealth. Therefore, both Ning Fengji and Chihiro Snow were a little shocked. The Snowy Night Emperor was really bold. He had invested a lot to win over the Dragon King Palace. Interesting. The emperor's conditions are quite tempting. Lu Yuan tapped his fingers on the table and said softly, "What do you think, Palace Master Lu? Are these 3 conditions sincere enough?" The Snowy Night Emperor asked. "Yes, they are sincere enough." Lu Yuan said indifferently. "What about the cooperation?" The Snowy Night Emperor asked. "The cooperation will be as you wish. From today onwards, the Dragon King Palace will fully support the Heaven Do Imperial family. We will share weal and woe together." Lu Yuan said. "Good. Palace Master Lu is indeed a straightforward person." The Snowy Night Emperor was overjoyed when he heard Lu Yuan's words. His originally pale face seemed to have a few traces of redness. He clapped his hands lightly and a maid came up with a tray. There were 2 items on the tray. One was a square seal that was purple and gold in color. There were exquisite dragon carvings on the seal. The other item was a dazzling golden medallion. On one side of the medallion was a snow-white swan. This was the symbol of the Heaven Do Imperial family. On the other side was a majestic golden dragon. It looked exactly like Lu Yuan's golden dragon. These two items are the Golden Dragon King's seal and medallion. They represent the Golden Dragon King's status. Please accept them, the Snowy Night Emperor said. Then it would be impolite to refuse. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. Ha, Palace Master Lu. Oh, no, I should call you Golden Dragon King now. This emperor has arranged a banquet in the shunned palace. Golden Dragon King and this emperor will sit down and chat while we eat. How about it? The Snowy Night Emperor was very happy that he had successfully reached an agreement with Lu Yuan. With the support of another superpower, the Heaven Do imperial family was as stable as Mount Tai. Furthermore, with the support of the Dragon King Palace, which had 5 titled Soul Masters and even the limit Douluo Long Xiaoyaro, the Snowy Night Emperor was no longer afraid of the martial Soul Palace. He was overjoyed and directly invited Lu Yuan to sit down. That would be great. Lu Yuan smiled. Golden Dragon King, please. The Snowy Night Emperor extended his hand. After you, Emperor. Lu Yuan smiled. Ha. The Snowy Night Emperor laughed and walked in front. Lu Yuan smiled and followed behind the Snowy Night Emperor. Crown Prince's residence. Chihiro Snow's study. Lu Yuan lay in front of Chihiro Snow's desk and stared at Chihiro Snow. Why don't we go to your room? Chihiro Snow rolled his eyes at Lu Yuan and said, What do you want to do in my room in broad daylight? Lu Yuan blinked and said, Don't you know what I want to do? Chihiro Snow spat and said, P2E, pervert. All you think about is doing bad things. Lu Yuan spread his hands and pretended to be helpless as he said, I can't help it. My share is too beautiful. I can't help it. Chihiro Snow blushed when she heard this, but the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. She was actually very happy that Lu Yuan was so infatuated with her. All right, stop fooling around. Let's talk about something serious. Chihiro Snow said with a serious expression. Talk about something serious? All right, go ahead. Lu Yuan stopped smiling when he heard Chihiro Snow's words. He sat up straight and his expression became serious. Speaking of which, Lu Yuan and Qian Renxue were quite similar. Both of them were the type who could be fooling around 1 second and immediately get into the mood to talk about work the next second. It was no wonder they were together. Abuchi, now that your Dragon King Palace has allied with the Heaven Do imperial family, we can start our plan slowly. Chihiro Snow said. Chapter 591. After hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan couldn't help but frown as he said, Is there a need to be so hasty, Cher? Haste makes waste. It's still a little too early to make a move. If we act too hastily, it'll be easy to reveal our flaws and alert the enemy. Chihiro Snow glanced at Lu Yuan as he spoke softly. I didn't say that we should act now. I only said that we can start the plan slowly. Start slowly? Lu Yuan tapped his fingers on the table as he muttered to himself, Then tell me what you're thinking. Chihiro Snow nodded and said, You know that I'm currently in charge of the entire Heaven Do Empire's political affairs, right? Yes. Lu Yuan nodded slightly and said, They all say that the Snowy Night Emperor's health is deteriorating, so the Crown Prince is temporarily in charge of political affairs. I'm aware of this. However, Cher, you're the one behind the Snowy Night Emperor's health, aren't you? Did you cause the poison in his body to slowly erupt in advance? That's why the Snowy Night Emperor's health is deteriorating. Cher, I have to give you a piece of advice. The Snowy Night Emperor can't die yet. At the very least, he can't die before you wipe out all the opposing voices in the imperial court. Otherwise, once he dies, those who oppose you will take the opportunity to retaliate. That will be quite a big problem. Furthermore, if the Snowy Night Emperor dies too suddenly, then you, as the number 1 successor, will be the first person to be suspected. They will suspect that you killed your father in order to ascend to the throne. This will be very disadvantageous for you. As he spoke, Lu Yuan looked at Chihiro Snow with a serious expression. I know that, so I don't plan to let the Snowy Night Emperor die right now. I'm just slowly drawing out the poison in the Snowy Night Emperor's body so that his body will slowly deteriorate. When he dies, it will be a few years later. When he dies, Everyone will only think that his body can't hold on anymore and that's why he's slowly dying. No one will suspect me. In the face of Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow slowly explained. I see. After listening to Qian Runshue's explanation, Lu Yuan nodded slightly. If it had been a few years before he died, then it would not have attracted too much attention. After all, people would die eventually. It was just a matter of whether it was a strange death or a normal death. It made sense that the Snowy Night Emperor had dragged it on for a few years before he could no longer hold on. It seemed that he had underestimated Chihiro Snow. Chihiro Snow was still as cautious and considerate as ever. When she was doing this, she had already considered this problem. However, was Chihiro Snow doing this because he was slowly gaining confidence in controlling the entire Heaven Do Empire within a few years? Thinking about it, Lu Yuan raised his own question. If I were alone, I wouldn't be confident. However, with the help of your Dragon King Palace and the cooperation of your Golden Dragon King, I'm confident that I'll be able to take complete control of the Heaven Do Empire in the next few years. Therefore, little Yuan, you'll have to help me from now on. Chihiro Snow winked as she spoke playfully to Lu Yuan. My wife has already spoken. How can I not help? If you need anything, just let me know. I'll do it. Lu Yuan spread his hands and pretended to be helpless. Hehe, at least you have some conscience. Chihiro Snow rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan, but her face was full of smiles. Cher, how is the situation in the imperial court now? Lu Yuan asked. The situation is not bad. Although there are officials who oppose me, there aren't many of them. However, there are many neutral parties. What I need to do now is to establish my authority in the imperial court and have everyone gradually acknowledge me. While I rope in the neutral parties, I will do my best to eliminate those officials who don't see eye to eye with me. Chihiro Snow said. Yes. After hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan nodded and said, what you are doing is not wrong. However, you have to be careful. Don't go overboard. That will have negative effects. If you really want to eliminate someone, you don't have to do it yourself to avoid arousing suspicion. You just have to tell me and I will help you arrange a reasonable death. What do you mean by reasonable? Chihiro Snow asked with a smile. Reasonable means that they deserve to die. The kind that won't arouse suspicion. For example, when we pushed the blame to Avalanche in the Heaven Do Imperial Academy, it was very reasonable. Lu Yuan said with a smile. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow and Lu Yuan couldn't help but look at each other. The two of them smiled at the same time. Back then, the two of them could be said to have cooperated quite well. Now, the tacit understanding between the two of them was still very good. Looking at Lu Yuan, Chihiro Snow's eyes were filled with gentleness. It was really easy to cooperate with this guy. There was no need to say anything. With just a look, he could understand what he meant. This feeling of being understood was really wonderful. Fortunately, there was still someone in the world who understood and supported him. Chihiro Snow thought to himself. Seeing that Chihiro Snow was staring at him without moving, Lu Yuan couldn't help but raise his eyebrows and said with a smile, What's wrong, Cher? Why are you staring at me like that? Are you mesmerized by my peerless beauty? Bah, you're narcissistic again. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but glare at Lu Yuan. Hehe, this isn't narcissism. This is confidence. There's no other way. Who asked me to have such a handsome face? Lu Yuan laughed. Seeing Lu Yuan's narcissistic appearance, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but shake his head. This guy's skin was really thick to a certain extent. It was simply impossible to pierce through it with a needle, impossible to be shaken by lightning. She really couldn't do anything about this guy. Looking at Lu Yuan, Qian Runshue suddenly had a flash of inspiration as she remembered something. Abuchi, there's something I forgot to tell you. Chihiro Snow said. Oh, what is it? Lu Yuan asked curiously. Do you still remember that Tang-san you mentioned before? Chihiro Snow asked. Of course. What about him? Did something happen? Lu Yuan asked. He did. He's currently at the Heaven Do Imperial Academy. He's the captain of the Heaven Do Imperial Academy's team. Chihiro Snow said. You're telling the truth. Hearing this, a trace of shock flashed across Lu Yuan's face. He didn't expect Tang San to be at the Heaven Do Imperial Academy. Moreover, he was the captain. This news was a bit interesting. But how did Tang San get into the Heaven Do Imperial Academy? He didn't have Qin Ming to introduce him to. Lu Yuan had some doubts in his heart, so he directly asked. The previous captain of the Heaven Do Imperial Academy, Yu Tianheng, invited Tang San to join. Chihiro Snow's vermilion lips lightly parted as she revealed another piece of news that shocked Lu Yuan. Chapter 592. Yu Tianheng invited Tang San to join the Heaven Do Imperial Academy and even gave up his position as captain. This time, Lu Yuan was truly astonished. Chihiro Snow's short words contained a lot of information. First, Tang San had entered the Heaven Do Imperial Academy. Second, Tang San and Yu Tianheng knew each other, and it was Yu Tianheng who pulled him into the academy. Third, Tang San was now the captain of the Heaven Do Imperial Academy. These were the three most obvious pieces of information in Chihiro Snow's words, but if one thought about it carefully, they would be able to deduce even more. First, Yu Tianheng had lost his confidence and left the academy like a zombie. Now that he had returned, it meant that his confidence had been rebuilt. And the most important thing about rebuilding confidence was that his strength had increased. Strength was the basis for confidence, and it could be inferred that Yu Tianheng was much stronger than before. Secondly, even though Yu Tianheng's strength had increased, he still gave the captain's position to Tang San. This meant that he was not Tang San's opponent. From this, it could be seen that Tang San's strength should be even stronger. However, Tang San was only level 29 2 years ago, which was a far cry from Yu Tianheng. Therefore, it was very likely that Tang San had obtained a new opportunity in these 2 years. Or perhaps Tang San had cultivated twin martial souls, otherwise his strength wouldn't have increased so quickly. Third, since Tang San had entered the Heaven Do Imperial Academy, then Grandmaster Yu Tianheng must have also followed him. Thinking back to the Thunder Academy's 4-in-1 fusion technique and Yu Tianxin's blind confidence, it was very likely that Grandmaster Yu Tianheng had taught the 4-in-1 fusion technique. After all, Grandmaster Yu Tianheng had created a 7-in-1 fusion technique in the original novel. However, Grandmaster Yu Tianheng might have been hiding something, which was why he only taught the 4-in-1 fusion technique. Perhaps Grandmaster Yu Tianheng's goal was to test his strength. After all, he had enmity with Tang San, and Tang San also viewed him as an enemy. Moreover, in the finals, the Heavenly Star Academy and the Heaven Do Imperial Academy were bound to meet. Therefore, with Grandmaster's nature, he wanted to collect information on himself and think of ways to deal with him. However, Grandmaster didn't expect the Heavenly Star Academy to be so strong. Before Lu Yuan even entered the arena, they had already defeated the Thunder Academy. Since Tang San and Yu Tianheng were here, the Heaven Do Imperial Academy's trump card must be a 7-figure fusion technique. Once the 7 figures fuse, Tang San would be able to use the clear sky body. Therefore, he might encounter this trump card as well. Based on Chihiro Snow's information, Lu Yuan made some speculations and basically sorted out all the connections. No wonder he kept feeling that someone was spying on him that day. He thought it was just that loser Shenyan, but now that he thought about it, there was also a master hiding in the dark. However, since Grandmaster was spying on him and collecting information, he must know that he was the captain of the Heavenly Star Academy's team and that Liu Erlong was the vice principal of the Heavenly Star Academy. Both of them would follow the team at all times, so he must know of Liu Erlong's existence. However, even now, he knew that Liu Erlong had been waiting for him, but he still didn't have any plans to meet her. This man, hey! Lu Yuan thought to himself, and the corner of his mouth hooked up into a sneer. These people were really good at scheming, but it was a pity that no matter how many tricks they had, they couldn't withstand a single blow from absolute strength. Even if Tang San was a soul sage, Lu Yuan could still beat him up, let alone a 7-figure martial soul true body. In the end, a clown was just a clown. The so-called wisdom that he was so proud of was just a little bit of cleverness. As for how Grandmaster and the others knew that he was in the Heavenly Star Academy and specially prepared this plan, Lu Yuan didn't find it strange. They probably saw it during the opening ceremony. After all, Grandmaster loved to collect information, and he definitely wouldn't miss the Continental Elite Soul Master Tournament. Once he arrived, he would definitely see Lu Yuan. Of course, it was also possible that he found out about Lu Yuan's existence through other means. Because there were many ways to find out that he was in the Heavenly Star Academy, Lu Yuan wasn't interested. What he was interested in was how strong Tang-san and the others were now. As he thought about it, he asked Chihiro Snow his question. So, Cher, do you know how strong they are now? Strength? I'm not too sure about that. I haven't had much time to manage the matters of the Heaven Do Imperial Academy these days, so I only have a rough idea. Tang-san seems to be a Soul King, Yu Tianheng seems to be rank 47 or 48, and Dai Mubai seems to be around the same rank as Yu Tianheng. But there's one thing that's very strange. Chihiro Snow furrowed his beautiful brows as he spoke. What is it? Lu Yuan asked. I've only met them once, but they all have an aura that makes me feel very uncomfortable. Chihiro Snow said. An aura that makes you feel very uncomfortable? After hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan couldn't help but gently stroke his chin. He had a few guesses in his heart. If an aura could make Chihiro Snow, who possessed divine power, feel uncomfortable, then it was self-evident what it was. And what's even more interesting is that Tang-san, Yu Tianheng, and Dai Mubai, these three fellows who have a grudge against me, have actually gathered together. Are they preparing to take revenge on me as a group? With that thought, Lu Yuan smiled faintly, but since the three of you worked so hard to gather together, then if I don't cripple all of you in one go, then I'll be letting you down. With a faint smile, Lu Yuan turned his gaze to Chihiro Snow and continued to ask, Cher, who are the other members of the Heaven Do Imperial Academy? En, the She brothers, Oaso, and a support-type soul master called Yi Lingling. They're all soul ancestors, and with Tang-san and the other two, they're the official members of the Heaven Do Imperial Academy's team. Chihiro Snow said. Is that so? That means the Heaven Do Imperial Academy's team has 1 Soul King and 6 soul ancestors. That's 1 more soul ancestor than the Heavenly Star Academy's team without me. Their strength is pretty good. Lu Yuan said with a light smile. What's the use of that? They'll still lose if they meet you. Chihiro Snow glanced at Lu Yuan as he spoke. For those who had fought with Lu Yuan before, she knew Lu Yuan's strength inside out. He was definitely an existence that far surpassed his level. Even someone like her, who had touched the threshold of a soul Douluo, was no match for him, let alone others. Isn't losing to me inevitable? Lu Yuan chuckled. Oh, you. Chihiro Snow rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan. Although Lu Yuan was speaking the truth, was it really good to be so narcissistic? Hee. After being glared at by Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan laughed mischievously. He didn't seem to mind at all. Instead, he leisurely picked up his teacup and took a sip of tea. Chapter 593. Shuer, there's something I need to tell you. Lu Yuan took a sip of tea and said softly, What is it? Chihiro Snow asked curiously. After the finals, I'll kill 2 members of the Heaven Do Imperial Academy's team, Lu Yuan said. Who? Chihiro Snow asked. Yu Tianheng and Dai Mubai. They both have enmity with me, so I have to get rid of them. Otherwise, they'll cause trouble for me. Although I don't care about them and don't place them in my eyes, it's still a little disgusting to see them jumping around and causing trouble. Lu Yuan said. Both have enmity with you? Chihiro Snow was stunned for a moment before he reacted. His enmity with Yu Tianheng should have started back at the Heaven Do Imperial Academy. Back then, Lu Yuan had crushed Yu Tianheng's pride and crushed the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon. That was when they started their enmity. To be more precise, Lu Yuan's enmity with Yu Tianheng was because of her. After all, Lu Yuan's actions were part of his plan. Aside from letting Lu Yuan get acquainted with Ning Fengji, the plan was also to stabilize her position in the Heaven Do Imperial Academy. As for his enmity with Dai Mubai, Chihiro Snow knew that Dai Mubai was Zhu Juqing's fiancé. Dai Mubai would definitely take revenge for stealing Zhu Juqing's fiancé. Although Dai Mubai deserved it since he was the one who abandoned Zhu Juqing first before Zhu Juqing ended up with Ibuchi, People only saw the flaws of others and not their own. Therefore, Dai Mubai probably hated Ibuchi to the core. Furthermore, Dai Mubai was a prince of the Sionra Empire. Killing him was no big deal. Killing Yu Tianheng and Dai Mubai wasn't a big deal. All he had to do was clean it up. Therefore, Chihiro Snow didn't object. So, Cher, you agree with me killing them? Lu Yuan asked with a smile. If you want to kill them, then kill them. It's not a big deal anyway. They're just two soul ancestors. Although their statuses aren't ordinary, that's all there is to it. Chihiro Snow said without a care in the world. He, I knew that Cher's boldness was extraordinary. She didn't even put the future successor of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect and the second prince of the Sionra Empire in her eyes. Impressive, impressive. It's a pity that you're a woman, Cher. If you were a man, you'd definitely be a rare ruler with great talent and bold vision. Lu Yuan said with a smile. It's a pity that I'm a woman. But if I were really a man, would you still help me like this? Chihiro Snow looked straight at Lu Yuan and asked softly. I wouldn't. Lu Yuan shook his head and said, for the sake of teacher, senior sister, and myself, I might even choose to kill you. The Pontiff Palace and the Hall of Consecration don't get along. Sooner or later, they'll fight for power and profit. We're destined to go against each other. Given my personality, I'd nip the danger in the bud. You're a real man. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This man actually said that if she were a man, he'd kill her. Couldn't he be a little more tactful? Did he really think that she wouldn't be angry? I've always been a real man. For example, I've never denied that I'm a scumbag. I'm a scumbag now. I've never hidden my desire for your body. Would I tell you that I was lusting after you the first time I saw you? Lu Yuan winked at Chihiro Snow and said with a smile. Didn't you say that you fell in love with me at first sight? Chihiro Snow's cherry mouth slightly opened and softly spat out a sentence. There's no such thing as love at first sight. All love at first sight is lustful. I'm a complete beauty lover. You're so beautiful, so I'm naturally tempted. Lu Yuan said with a serious face. Well, so you're only telling the truth now, right? When you told me that you fell in love with me at first sight, I was touched for a while. So it was because of my face? Chihiro Snow asked. Not only your face, but also your figure. I have high standards. Just having a good-looking face isn't enough. Lu Yuan said as if it was a matter of fact. Bah, you pervert, you're really a visual animal. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but spit and said. Visual animal, yes, I'm indeed a visual animal. But aren't you, Cher? If I wasn't handsome, would you like me? Lu Yuan asked back. That, of course I. After being asked by Lu Yuan, Chihiro Snow's eyes suddenly drifted, and her mouth murmured, unable to say a definite answer. Of course you wouldn't like me, right? You're a beauty lover. You're also a visual animal, and you're still talking about me. Lu Yuan rolled her eyes at Chihiro Snow and said. So what if I'm a visual animal? I'm not the one who pursued you, it's you who pursued me. Chihiro Snow raised her head with a proud look on her face. Fart. Seeing Chen Renshue's expression, Lu Yuan couldn't help but laugh. This girl was really interesting. So I'm the one who pursued you, and you're very proud, very proud? Lu Yuan asked with a light smile. Yes, I'm very proud, very proud. I'm the only woman you've pursued, unlike the other three, who all threw themselves at you. Chihiro Snow curled her lips, and had a somewhat proud look on her face. Yes, you're the best. In fact, among the three of you, only you and Na are the ones I can't control at first sight. And between the two of you, you're the most attractive to me. Lu Yuan said with a faint smile. At least you have some eyesight. This lady's charm is naturally the greatest. Chihiro Snow tenderly snorted, and then looked at Lu Yuan, and the two couldn't help but laugh at the same time. Oh, right, just now you said that after the finals, you'll kill Yu Tianheng and Dai Mubai. Then what about that Tang-san? Should we kill him? Chihiro Snow asked. Tang-san, let's see his luck. Lu Yuan said. See his luck. Chihiro Snow was somewhat puzzled. If they didn't kill him, then let him go. What did he mean by see his luck? Yes, don't ask now. You'll know in the future. Lu Yuan said with a smile. Okay. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow could only give up on asking. She only cursed in her heart. This stinking bastard, he actually wants to keep me in suspense. Looking at Chihiro Snow's pouting red lips, how could Lu Yuan not know what she was thinking? He understood Chihiro Snow the most. This girl was definitely cursing him in her heart. With a cough, Lu Yuan said, Okay, share, don't be angry. I have a surprise for you. What surprise? Chihiro Snow was somewhat curious. Take out your divine sword. I'll upgrade it. Lu Yuan said with a smile. Upgrade? Chihiro Snow was stunned for a moment, and then immediately reacted. Her voice was filled with astonishment. You've become a Class 7 soul engineer? Facing Chihiro Snow's astonished gaze, Lu Yuan smiled and said softly, Yes, I just broke through. Chapter 594. After some effort, Lu Yuan finally upgraded Chihiro Snow's holy sword from Class 6 to Class 7. Chihiro Snow's holy sword was made of the best materials. In addition, there was a soul bone in it. After the upgrade, the holy sword was upgraded to Class 7. It was better than Wang Qiu'er's Scarlet Flame Spear and Zhu Zhuqing's Clear Abyss sword. After the divine sword had been upgraded, the divine power, light power, and flame power within it had become even stronger. Qian Renxue simply could not bear to part with it. She even took the initiative to give Lu Yuan a deep kiss with her cherry lips. In fact, Chihiro Snow had always felt that the holy sword wasn't enough. She was already a rank 67 soul emperor. In addition, her martial soul was the 8-winged angel. This was a powerful martial soul that surpassed ordinary god-ranked martial souls. If she unleashed her full power, Chihiro Snow's abilities could reach the threshold of a soul Douluo. Under such circumstances, the Class 6 Holy Sword could increase her fighting strength. However, it couldn't increase her fighting strength by much. However, it was different when it was upgraded to a Class 7 Soul Tool. Not only was it more convenient to use, but its power had also increased greatly. With the Holy Sword, which was a Class 7 Soul Tool, Qian Renxue could even take on a Soul Douluo on her own. Her strength had increased tremendously. Just as mentioned earlier, many talented soul masters could take on ordinary titled Douluo as soul sages. However, that was because of the strength of their martial soul true bodies. After all, the stronger a martial soul was, the stronger its martial soul true body would be. Under such circumstances, it was understandable that a soul sage could take on an ordinary titled soul master. However, being able to take on an ordinary titled soul master didn't mean that a soul emperor could take on a soul Douluo. This was a completely different concept. If one could say that those who could do the former were absolute geniuses, then those who could do the latter were all monsters. This kind of monstrous battle record usually only existed in creatures like protagonists or cheaters. For example, Lu Da, or Tang San in the original novel. And now, Chihiro Snow was also able to do this. This meant that Chihiro Snow was also gradually entering the ranks of monsters. Although she wasn't the main character, she was his girlfriend, so she could be compared with the other main characters. It had to be said that cheats were really powerful. In the battle between the main character and the cheats were still a level higher. After helping Chihiro Snow upgrade the divine sword, Lu Yuan returned to his own Dragon King Palace after a brief moment of intimacy. After all, he had just reached an agreement with the Snow Knight Emperor, so there were some things that he had to arrange properly. While Lu Yuan was busy, another week passed. In this week's time, the Heavenly Star Battle Team naturally won all their matches. Because there were no academies that accepted the challenge, for 5 consecutive days, their opponents all forfeited. Without any effort, they easily obtained another 5 victories. With the addition of these 5 victories, it could be said that the Heavenly Star Academy had already obtained 20 consecutive victories. In other words, after 7 more matches, the qualifiers would be over. However, after carefully thinking about the remaining opponents, It seemed that only the Blazing Academy could enter their eyes. The Heavenly Water Academy had already met them, which was on Wednesday of this week. On this day, the Heavenly Water Academy and the Heavenly Star Academy should have had a showdown, but the Heavenly Water Academy directly forfeited. Therefore, in the remaining 7 matches, it was very likely that the Blazing Academy was the only one left. The other academies should have chosen to forfeit. And the match with the Blazing Academy happened to be tomorrow, which was the first match on Monday morning. After this match, the qualifiers could basically be said to be bye-bye. Tomorrow's opponent is the Blazing Academy, right? In the Dragon King Palace, Zhu Zhuqing looked at Lu Yuan and softly asked. Yes, it is indeed the Blazing Academy. Lu Yuan softly said. Then do you need me to play tomorrow? Zhu Zhuqing asked. There's no need for that. I'll play alone tomorrow, Lu Yuan said. Oh. Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing gently nodded, very obedient. Ari. Lu Yuan sighed, then gently pulled Zhu Zhuqing into his embrace, his chin lightly resting on Zhu Zhuqing's forehead. Zhuqing, there's something I need to tell you. Lu Yuan gently stroked Zhu Zhuqing's soft and silky hair as he spoke in a warm voice. What is it? Zhu Zhuqing softly asked while enjoying the warmth of Lu Yuan's embrace. I found Dai Mubai's whereabouts. He is currently at the Heavendo Imperial Academy with Tang San and Yu Tianheng. The 3 of them are looking for trouble with me. Lu Yuan faintly smiled and said. Oh. Zhu Zhuqing said, then didn't respond. What, are you not interested? Lu Yuan asked. I'm not interested. I've had nothing to do with him for a long time. I'm only yours now, and I'll only be yours for the rest of my life. As for other men, I don't care. Zhu Zhuqing shook her head and said seriously. Hearing this, Lu Yuan's hand that was stroking Zhu Zhuqing's hair paused slightly. His heart warmed, and the corner of his mouth curved into a smile. But. Zhu Zhuqing's voice sounded again. But what? Lu Yuan asked. But since they are looking for trouble with you, they must have some kind of confidence, or prepared some kind of trump card to deal with you. You have to be careful, don't get hurt. Zhu Zhuqing said. I'll be fine, don't worry. But they might die after this tournament, especially Dai Mubai. I won't let that fellow go. He escaped quickly back in Shrek Academy, but this time, he will die without a doubt. And if he dies, your marriage contract will be cancelled. When the tournament is over, I will accompany you back home to see your mother. She should be the only family member you still care about. When the time comes, we can tell her about us and ask her to give us her blessings. What do you think, Zhuqing? Lu Yuan asked. Okay. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Zhu Zhuqing's clear eyes became misty. She was very touched and happy that Lu Yuan was so considerate of her. Then it settled. Lu Yuan laughed softly. Okay. Zhu Zhuqing nodded lightly, then hugged Lu Yuan even tighter. Feeling the pressure from his waist, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile, and the hand around Zhu Zhuqing's waist tightened. In the blink of an eye, it was already the next day. The sun rose high in the sky, but it was only around 8 in the morning. Lu Yuan and the others had already gathered in Group A. Today was the match between the Heavenly Star Academy and the Blazing Fire Academy, so it was exceptionally popular. The Heavenly Star Academy team hadn't appeared in the tournament for 8 or 9 rounds, and the audience was looking forward to seeing their wonderful performance again. So when Lu Yuan and the others entered, the audience immediately burst into deafening cheers. Chapter 595. Heavenly Star, Heavenly Star, Heavenly Star. As soon as Lu Yuan and the others entered the arena, the audience immediately started cheering. I haven't been here for a while. I didn't expect the audience to be so enthusiastic. Hearing the cheers, Lu Yuan said with a faint smile. Of course, our Heavenly Star Academy is the star team of the Heavendo district. We have countless supporters. As soon as Lu Yuan's voice fell, Ning Rongrong's voice sounded from the side. Her tone carried a trace of pride, as if she was proud to be a member of the Heavenly Star Academy. In fact, this was the case. The Heavenly Star Academy had already gone through 20 rounds of matches in the Heavendo district. All of them were victories, and nearly half of them were forfeited by their opponents. This kind of record was absolutely unique in the Heaven Do district. The Heavenly Star Academy was also the only team in the Heaven Do district that had not lost a single match. As for the other teams, such as the Divine Wind Academy, Thunder Academy, Botany Academy, Skywater Academy, Elephant Armor Academy, and so on, they were either defeated or forfeited. In short, they were all defeated by the Heavenly Star Academy, so naturally they did not have a complete victory. Although the Blazing Academy had defeated the Divine Wind Academy, Feng Xiaoqian forfeited, and the Thunder Academy, Yu Qianxian was unable to participate, they were defeated by the Skywater Academy. Ice and fire mutually restrained each other, but in this battle, the Skywater Academy was still superior. Shui Bing'er suppressed Hua Wu and obtained victory. Although the two girls' soul power was equal, the Ice Phoenix was still a bit stronger than Hua Wu's Fire Shadow. Furthermore, the Skywater Academy also had a martial soul fusion skill. This was something that the Blazing Academy could not compare with. Losing was actually a very normal thing. Looking at the proud face of Ning Rongrong, Lu Yuan could not help but smile. He then turned his head and saw that everyone's faces carried a faint pride. This kind of pride was completely from the heart. Seeing this scene, Lu Yuan's heart was slightly happy. It seemed that these members of his team had already acknowledged him as a member of the Heavenly Star Battle team from the bottom of their hearts. This was a good thing. Only when his teammates were proud of him as a member of the Heavenly Star Battle team would the cohesiveness of the Heavenly Star Battle team be stronger. Accompanied by the cheers of the audience, Lu Yuan and the others arrived at the waiting area. Opposite them was a group of people from the Blazing Fire Academy. Seeing Lu Yuan's gaze move over, Hua Wushuang nodded in a friendly manner. In response to Hua Wushuang's goodwill, Lu Yuan also responded with a faint smile. Since the other party had taken the initiative to express goodwill, he couldn't lose his manners. However, since Hua Wushuang had expressed his goodwill, Lu Yuan thought to himself, I can go easy on him later. His gaze shifted slightly as he glanced at the viewing area and the VIP seats. At this moment, the seats were already filled with people. There were quite a few familiar faces in the viewing gallery. Apart from the Blazing Fire Academy, the rest of the 4 elemental academies were present, including the Thunder Academy that had suffered a crushing defeat at the hands of the Heavenly Star Battle team. Apart from them, there were also a few other battle teams present. It seemed like many other academies were very interested in today's battle between the Heavenly Star Academy and the Blazing Fire Academy. As for the VIP seats, needless to say, there was the handsome middle-aged sect head of the 7 Treasures Glazed sect, Ning Fengji, his bodyguard, the Bone Douluo, the Platinum Bishop of the Martial Soul Palace, Sarkaz, and the little expert at courting death, Snowy Night Emperor, who was in poor health but liked to wander around. On the Dragon King Palace's side, there was a different person today. The chair-gnawing expert, Dugu Bo, wasn't online, but was replaced by the bright phoenix Douluo, Yang Shaozhe. Sensing Lu Yuan's gaze sweeping over, Ning Fengji and Snowy Night Emperor couldn't help but smile and nod at Lu Yuan. Seeing the two of them nod, Lu Yuan also nodded slightly as a greeting, and then shifted his gaze away. The news of the alliance between the Dragon King Palace and the Heaven Do Empire had already spread. It could be said that it was like a stone that stirred up 1,000 ripples, causing widespread controversy and discussion. It didn't have much of an impact on the ordinary powers. Logically speaking, the Martial Soul Palace and the Sionra Empire should be the most shocked. The Martial Soul Palace didn't have much of a reaction. Others might not know, but how could they not know? Don't forget who the Dragon King Palace belonged to. Among the upper echelons of the Martial Soul Palace, basically everyone knew about Lu Yuan's identity. However, the Sionra Empire was different. They were clearly a lot more cautious. With the Dragon King Palace supporting the Heaven Do Empire, the Heaven Do Empire's strength had increased significantly. This wasn't a good thing for the Sionra Empire. Currently, the Sionra Empire, the Heaven Do Empire, and the Martial Soul Palace were resisting each other. The Heaven Do Empire and the Sionra Empire were resisting the Martial Soul Palace because the Martial Soul Palace had been too strong in recent years. The two empires were also in constant conflict. If it weren't for the Martial Soul Palace's suppression, the two empires would have already gone to war. It could be said that these three empires didn't see eye to eye with each other. Therefore, after knowing about the cooperation between the Dragon King Palace and the Heaven Do Empire, the Sionra Empire was naturally more vigilant. Half an hour of preparation time wasn't considered short, but it wasn't long either. Soon, the time was up, and both parties began to enter the arena. After receiving the announcement from the host, Lu Yuan waved his sleeve slightly and leisurely walked onto the arena alone. In the spectator area, Shui Yue looked at Lu Yuan and couldn't help but whisper, "Prince Charming is going up alone this time. Is he going to fight 7 people by himself?" "It seems like it." Fighting 7 people by himself is indeed in line with his character. Shui Yue sighed softly and said, "It seems like today's battle will be very interesting." Feng Xiaotian stroked his chin and said softly. However, he changed his tone after a second thought. "I only hope that pervert Lu Yuan will go easy on him and not hurt my little sister Fire Dance." Feng Xiaotian's tone carried a hint of worry. "Bah, bootlicker." Hearing Feng Xiaotian's words, Shui Yue couldn't help but curl her lips and secretly spat. "Yue." Hearing Shui Yue's muttering, Shui Yue couldn't help but glare at her. Being glared at by Shui Yue suddenly stuck out her tongue in embarrassment and had a playful look on her face. Shui Yue, who was used to Shui Yue's character, couldn't help but shake her head. Her gaze turned slightly and fell on the arena. There, Lu Yuan and the Blazing Fire Academy's entire team had already entered the arena. Next up is the match between the Heavenly Star Academy and the Blazing Fire Academy. We can see that the Heavenly Star Academy has finally entered the arena again after their last match with the Weathered Academy. As for the Heavenly Star Academy's next appearance, everyone has been looking forward to it for a long time, right? The host's slightly excited voice sounded. "Yes. Heavenly Star. Heavenly Star." As soon as the host finished speaking, the audience's cheers suddenly rang out. The entire arena was filled with the audience's cheers. Chapter 596. Listening to the cheers of the audience, the host smiled with satisfaction. His job was to arouse the enthusiasm of the audience and make the atmosphere of the competition even more enthusiastic. With a chuckle, he continued, "And in this competition against the Blazing Academy, our Heavenly Star Academy actually only sent their captain, Lu Yuan, out. Could it be that after the 2 versus 7 match against the Weevil Academy, our contestant Lu Yuan will have to fight 1 versus 7 again? Contestant Lu Yuan, are you sure you want to fight 1 versus 7 in this match?" The host asked Lu Yuan. "I'm sure," Lu Yuan said with an indifferent nod. "Good. Contestant Lu Yuan has already stated that he will fight 1 versus 7 from the Blazing Academy. So, will contestant Lu Yuan be the one to win this match? Or will the Blazing Academy be a level higher and win? Let's wait and see. I now announce that the first match of the 21st round of the qualifiers, the match between the Heavenly Star Academy and the Blazing Academy, will now begin." After getting Lu Yuan's response, the host immediately announced the start of the match in a loud voice. And in a split second, the audience in the audience once again shouted and cheered. "Phew, your popularity is really explosive." Looking at Lu Yuan, Hua Wushuang said with a chuckle. The shouts of the audience were unceasingly heard, but listening carefully, they were basically supporting the Heavenly Star Academy and Lu Yuan. The voices supporting the Blazing Academy were few and far between. Hearing that, Lu Yuan smiled faintly and didn't answer. His gaze lightly swept, taking in the strength of the Blazing Academy's team. 3 Soul Ancestors and 4 Soul Exalts. Their team composition was the same as that of the Wangjiu Academy, but the fact that the Blazing Academy had managed to defeat the Wangjiu Academy meant that they were a lot stronger than that bunch of simpletons. And among the 3 Soul Ancestors of the Blazing Academy, Hua Wushuang was rank 43. The other Soul Ancestor seemed to have just broken through and was only rank 41. The highest rank was Hua Wu, rank 44. However, at this moment, Fire Dance was staring at Lu Yuan with an expressionless face. Her gaze made Lu Yuan feel a little strange. "Speaking of which, what's wrong with your sister? I don't owe her money, right? Why is she staring at me like that?" Lu Yuan looked at Hua Wushuang and asked softly. It has nothing to do with you. It's my sister. Ever since she lost to Shui Bing last time, she's still sulking. Hua Wushuang gently shook her head and said, You don't have to be like this even if you lose a match. Brother Wushuang, your sister is very competitive, Lu Yuan said. Hearing this, Hua Wushuang smiled bitterly. This was his sister's personality. As her brother, there was nothing he could do about it. Are you done? If you're done, you can begin. Fire Dance's indifferent voice rang out as she listened to Lu Yuan and Hua Wushuang's conversation. Let's begin, then, Lu Yuan said with a faint smile at Fire Dance's words. All right. Hua Wushuang responded and took a step forward. He cupped his fists and said softly, Hua Wushuang, martial spirit, single horn flame, hey. Before Hua Wushuang could finish his words, he was interrupted by Lu Yuan. No need to report your level. Let's begin. All right, let's begin. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Hua Wushuang nodded and stomped his foot. His body was covered in red light as he directly possessed his martial spirit. At the same time, Fire Dance and the other 5 also completed their martial spirit possession. Under the state of martial spirit possession, Hua Wushuang's body was covered in a layer of dark red scales. There was a short horn protruding from his head that was about 3 inches long. Single horn flame dragon martial spirit. Looking at Hua Wushuang's transformation, Lu Yuan said indifferently. The single horn flame dragon martial spirit's attack power wasn't bad. It also had the explosive power of flames. It could be considered a top-grade martial spirit. However, this martial spirit didn't have the ability to transform into a dragon. It was slightly inferior to the blue lightning tyrant dragon. Moreover, when a dragon martial spirit encountered him, the result was a little wonderful. Moreover, Hua Wushuang's attribute was fire. This was even more wonderful. Thinking of this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but secretly smile. His gaze turned to Hua Wu. There was an orange figure on her body. This figure was very illusory. It was Hua Wu's martial spirit, Fire Shadow. After the Fire Shadow martial spirit possession, Hua Wu's body was filled with a fiery aura. Yellow, purple, and purple soul rings were faintly shining. At this moment, she was looking at Lu Yuan's figure, her eyes were filled with a burning desire to fight. Ah, come. Looking at the Blazing Academy's lineup, Lu Yuan said with a smile. Then let's go. Hua Wushuang roared. A resonant dragon's roar resounded. His body was covered in dense flames. A pair of sharp claws covered in scales directly clawed at Lu Yuan. At the same time, the other members of the Blazing Academy also launched their attacks one by one. 2 members with Fire Crane martial souls directly opened a pair of dazzling wings and went straight for Lu Yuan. The 2 soul masters with Fire Star martial souls also launched their support. That's right, their role was to support. Specks of fire entered the bodies of the other 5 soul masters from the Blazing Academy. Immediately, the aura of these 5 people rose by a notch. Regardless of whether it was their speed or attack, they all increased by a lot. At this moment, Hua Wu and the other soul ancestor with the Fire Leopard martial soul, who hadn't moved until now, also launched their own attacks. The Fire Leopard Soul Master directly released 7 dark blue fireballs and shot them at Lu Yuan. Hua Wu's body was also emitting a dense red light. The power of fire rose up, and one fireball after another directly smashed in Lu Yuan's direction. It could be said that the entire Blazing Academy had launched an attack right at the start of the match. They didn't hold back in the slightest. This was because they all knew how valiant the man opposite them was. In this kind of situation, if they still dared to hold back, they would be courting death. Heh. Lu Yuan chuckled. Looking at the attacks coming at him from all directions, his face was still as calm as before. There wasn't the slightest fluctuation in his expression. His right hand lightly stretched out, and his white palm directly slapped towards Hua Wushuang. Under Hua Wushuang's somewhat astonished gaze, Lu Yuan's hand and his sharp claws collided. There weren't any violent energy fluctuations as imagined, nor were there any earth-shattering sounds. Furthermore, there weren't any injuries to Lu Yuan's right hand that many people had imagined. With just a single palm, Lu Yuan easily slapped away Hua Wushuang's dragon claws. Then, he lightly landed on Hua Wushuang's chest. When Lu Yuan's palm landed on Hua Wushuang's body, the raging flames on Hua Wushuang's body were completely dispersed. With a slight movement of his palm, Hua Wushuang's body was immediately sent flying backwards at an extremely fast speed, landing beside Fire Dance. Chapter 597. Big Brother. Hua Wu couldn't help but let out a cry of alarm when she saw Hua Wushuang being sent flying by a single palm strike. She quickly asked with concern in her voice, "Big Brother, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Lu Yuan held back. Hua Wushuang said loudly as he got up and patted his chest. Just now, Lu Yuan's control over the strength of his palm had reached an extremely exquisite degree. Although Hua Wushuang had been sent flying so far away, he had the horned fire Tyrannosaurus martial soul. His defense was relatively strong, and his body was relatively sturdy. Secondly, under Lu Yuan's control, the force that hit Hua Wushuang's body had already been transmitted to the stage when Hua Wushuang landed on the ground. Hua Wushuang didn't suffer any major injuries because the force was completely vented. "Is it true, Big Brother?" Hua Wu didn't believe Hua Wushuang's words. After all, how could he be unharmed after being sent flying so far? "It's true," Hua Wushuang said. "Big Brother is full of energy right now. Does it look like something happened to him?" "No." Hua Wu shook her head gently. But since Hua Wushuang was fine, Hua Wu felt relieved and turned her gaze back to the battlefield. On the battlefield, Lu Yuan was strolling leisurely. His pace was slow, but every step he took was enough to dodge all the attacks. He gently stretched out his hand and casually patted the blue fireball sent by the fire leopard soul ancestor. Lu Yuan's white and tender hand didn't suffer the slightest damage and was still sparkling like white jade. Screech! Two sharp screeches rang out as the two soul masters with fire cranes pounced towards Lu Yuan. Their bodies were covered in dense flames and their gorgeous wings were spread open. The tips of their wings were incomparably sharp. Using their speed, they flew towards Lu Yuan. Not a bad idea. You want to win with speed. However, even though you guys are flying-type soul masters, you guys aren't as fast as me. After saying that, Lu Yuan's figure moved. A golden light appeared under his feet. The sound of a dragon's roar resounded. A golden dragon's shadow appeared under Lu Yuan's feet. Suddenly, Lu Yuan soared into the sky. He didn't use any external force. He just flew directly in the sky. Flying in the air, this was the effect of the dragon's swimming footwork in the Great Void of the Dragon. The Great Void Dragon was an extremely powerful self-created soul skill that fused attack power and movement into one. It was something that Lu Yuan had painstakingly created for 5 years. Among Lu Yuan's self-created soul skills, only his newest spear art, life slaughtering, could barely compare to it. It was definitely one of Lu Yuan's greatest killing weapons. Once the Great Void Dragon was unleashed, Lu Yuan's overall strength would increase by several times. It wasn't inferior to the martial soul true body's enhancement to a soul sage. Speaking of which, the Great Void Dragon was actually a little similar to a martial soul true body. However, there were also differences. A martial soul true body could only be possessed by a soul sage. Furthermore, once one entered a place like the City of Massacre, the martial soul true body would lose its effect. However, the Great Void Dragon was different. Not only could it allow Lu Yuan to transform into a divine dragon when he was a soul king, but more importantly, it was a self-created soul skill. It wasn't restricted by soul rings, and could be used anytime and anywhere. Furthermore, since the Great Void Dragon was a self-created soul skill, it could be passed down. This meant that others could also learn it. This was the power of the Great Void Dragon. With the help of the dragon swimming footwork, Lu Yuan soared into the sky. This instantly astonished everyone present. He can fly without wings. This is. Ning Fengji's mouth was wide open. He was astonished. What the hell is going on? Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Only a titled Douluo could fly without releasing his martial soul. Furthermore, only a powerful titled Douluo could do this. Ordinary people couldn't even think about it. However, What's going on with Lu Yuan? Not only Ning Fengji, but the Snowy Night Emperor and Sakas were also astonished. Who had seen Lu Yuan's move before? Could this be the power of a soul bone? The bone Douluo couldn't help but ask. Soul bone? After hearing the bone Douluo's words, everyone nodded. If this was the case, everything made sense. However, just as everyone thought that this was the power of a soul bone, Yang Shaoji's voice rang out. This isn't a soul bone. This is my master's self-created soul skill, the Great Void Dragon's swimming footwork. It allows one to walk on air. This is a self-created soul skill. After hearing Yang Shaoji's words, everyone was stunned. After that, they were completely astonished. This is a self-created soul skill. Is this another self-created soul skill? Your Majesty, how many self-created soul skills does a Buchi have? Ning Fengji couldn't help but ask curiously as he recalled the many self-created soul skills that he had seen Lu Yuan unleash back then. I'm not sure about that. There are quite a few. The Hall Master is very talented in this aspect. He has created many self-created soul skills, Yang Shaoji said softly. After hearing this, Sakas and the others couldn't help but turn silent. Others would be called a rare genius if they could create one self-created soul skill. Your Hall Master has actually created many self-created soul skills. This many is a little weird. Everyone felt a little uncomfortable in their hearts. This is definitely not jealousy. Let me reiterate, this is definitely not jealousy. The few of them said quietly in their hearts. Haha, Abuchi is quite impressive. The corner of Ning Fengji's mouth twitched, and he laughed dryly. His heart was also churning violently as he looked at Lu Yuan's elegant figure. His gaze was slightly focused. This youth can no longer be described as a genius, right? He was slightly glad that his relationship with him wasn't bad. Furthermore, he had Rong Rong. When he thought of Ning Rongrong, Ning Fengji couldn't help but smile. It seems like whether the Seven Treasures Glazed sect can progress further in the future will depend on Rong Rong. Ning Fengji thought to himself. Screech. When they saw Lu Yuan suddenly fly up, the two Flamingo Soul Masters were extremely shocked. A person who hadn't even released his martial soul was flying in the air. This scene had a huge impact on them. Even Hua Wu, who was not far away and wanted to help, was a little stunned. Go down. With a move, Lu Yuan appeared above the two Flamingo Soul Masters and lightly spat out 3 words. With 2 light kicks, the two Flamingo Soul Masters were directly kicked down from the air. The flames on their bodies were useless against Lu Yuan, and couldn't touch Lu Yuan at all. Fire cloud, fire rain. Hua Wu and Hua Wushuang couldn't help but cry out at the same time when they saw the two Flamingo Soul Masters being kicked away and falling on the stage. Before they could go forward to check, a white light flashed, and Lu Yuan's figure was already in front of Hua Wushuang and Hua Wushuang. A faint smile hung on the corner of his mouth. There's something I forgot to tell you too. Actually, I also have fire immunity. Chapter 598. There's something I forgot to tell you. Actually, I also have fire immunity. Standing in front of Hua Wu and Hua Wushuang, the corners of Lu Yuan's mouth curled up as he spoke in a faint voice. Fire immunity. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Fire Dance and Hua Wushuang's expressions darkened almost simultaneously. They felt as if they had just swallowed a fly. Their hearts were filled with disgust. It was no wonder why this fellow didn't seem to care about their flame attacks at all. He had even scattered the flames on their bodies with a light slap. It turned out that he actually had fire immunity. This was a little disgusting. They weren't a match for this fellow to begin with. Yet, this fellow actually had fire immunity. After all members of the Blazing Fire Academy possessed the fire attribute. Hua Wushuang's heart bled. If he had known that this fellow was fire immune, he wouldn't have participated in the match. Wasn't this purely to disgust him? Seeing his opponent fail to harm a single hair even after using all his strength was definitely not a pleasant feeling. So, do you two still want to continue? Lu Yuan asked, smiling softly as he looked at Fire Dance and Hua Wushuang's darkened expressions. Continue? What's the point of continuing? Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Hua Wushuang immediately spat out. Less than 30 seconds had passed since the start of the match, and 3 of his team members had already been sent flying. Their joint attack had also been completely nullified. Shifeng had easily crushed 7 of them. The difference in strength was simply too massive. However, this wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was that after Shifeng had leisurely nullified all of their attacks, he had actually casually said, "I'm fire immune." To Hua Wushuang, this was extremely unfriendly. Hua Wushuang's mind was on the verge of exploding. This was the same feeling Tang San had when he first heard that Lu Yuan's Golden Dragon War body was immune to control-type skills. He felt as if he had screwed a dog over. Then, does Miss Fire Dance still wish to continue? Hearing Hua Wushuang's words, Lu Yuan knew that this fellow didn't wish to continue. Hence, he immediately shifted his gaze to Fire Dance. Fire Dance stared at Lu Yuan with her fiery red eyes. Her eyes were filled with unwillingness. She clenched her jade-like fists, and her plump chest heaved up and down. She was really unwilling. Even if she had lost, she had no complaints. After all, Lu Yuan was so strong. It was normal for him to lose. But now, Lu Yuan also had a skill that made him immune to fire. This was somewhat disgusting. This meant that all of his skills had lost their effectiveness at the same time. Losing like this was too depressing, because this wasn't a loss in terms of strength. How could that despicable Lu Yuan have such a disgusting skill like fire immunity? And even if you do, can't you just keep it to yourself? Or you can talk about it after you're done. But now that he said it out loud, should I continue to fight or admit defeat? Continue fighting? Knowing that you're immune to fire but still continuing to fight, isn't that just looking for trouble and disgust yourself? But he was unwilling to admit defeat. Fire Dance clenched her fists in anger. Miss Fire Dance, do you still want to fight? Looking at Fire Dance's appearance, Lu Yuan asked again. We admit defeat. Fire Dance tightly looked at Lu Yuan, and forced out these 4 words from between her teeth. Obviously, her mind was somewhat blown away by Lu Yuan's words. Very good, a wise choice. Hearing this, Lu Yuan faintly smiled. Taking the initiative to admit defeat was good. After all, he had a good impression of the Blazing Fire Academy. If they didn't admit defeat and really fought, it wouldn't be good to injure someone. This was also the reason why he said those words. Otherwise, with Fire Dance's competitive nature, she would definitely go all out to deal with him. Of course, he wouldn't have any problems, but he was afraid that the girl would be injured. Now that they took the initiative to admit defeat, it was a good thing. The match is over, Heavenly Star Academy wins. Since the Blazing Fire Academy admitted defeat, the host's voice immediately sounded, announcing Heavenly Star Academy's victory. This match was a bit anticlimactic. Lu Yuan had just returned to the waiting area when Zhu Zhuqing's voice sounded. The main reason was that I was too lazy to fight. Their strength was too low, and I had a good impression of the Blazing Fire Academy. I didn't want to injure them, so I directly told them that I was immune to fire. Knowing this, they took the initiative to admit defeat. Lu Yuan softly laughed. Oh. Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing nodded, indicating that she understood. Today's match is over. I estimate that there shouldn't be any more matches in the qualifiers. We can directly prepare for the promotion match. Lu Yuan said with a chuckle. En. Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing slightly nodded. Then we can go back now. After we go back, I have some things to say to everyone. Lu Yuan's eyes slightly glanced, and said to everyone. Okay. Everyone nodded. Then let's go. Lu Yuan softly said, then turned around and left. Everyone in the Heavenly Star Academy also followed behind Lu Yuan, and the group of people walked towards the entrance of the arena. Heavenly Star Academy, Inner Court, Training Grounds. Captain, what exactly do you want to say to us, so serious? Looking at the serious face of Lu Yuan, Ling Wei was somewhat curious and immediately asked. Yes, brother, what exactly is the matter? Wang Chua echoed. Looking at everyone's somewhat curious gaze, Lu Yuan slightly smiled and said, Today, I gathered everyone together because there is indeed an important matter to tell everyone. For the promotion match, I may not be able to lead everyone to participate. I have some important matters to attend to, so I will hand over the command of the team to Zhu Qing. As for the promotion match, Zhu Qing will lead everyone to participate. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, everyone couldn't help but be stunned. Did Lu Yuan just say that he couldn't lead everyone to participate in the promotion match? Important matter? What important matter? Brother, can you tell Chioa? Wang Chioa went forward and hugged Lu Yuan's arm, and asked in a delicate voice. Temporarily not, this matter has to be kept a secret. Gently pinching Wang Chioa's pink cheeks, Lu Yuan smiled and said, "All right then." Hearing this, Wang Chioa drooped her small head and said somewhat dejectedly. Seeing Wang Chioa's dejected appearance, Lu Yuan couldn't help but gently rub her head, comforting her. Being intimately rubbed by Lu Yuan, Wang Chioa's eyes immediately narrowed into crescent moons, revealing an expression of enjoyment, and the previous disappointment was swept away. "Captain, do we have to leave?" Looking at Lu Yuan, Fu Qinsheng softly asked. "Yes." Lu Yuan nodded and said, "This matter is very important, and it has to be done. Furthermore, the time is not short, and it is not something that can be done in 1 or 2 days. Therefore, the promotion match will depend on yourselves. With Zhu Qing's strength and Qinsheng's control, it won't be difficult for you to pass the promotion match." Chapter 599. That's why Zhu Qing, Qin Sheng, I'll leave the rest of the team to the two of you. Zhu Qing will be in charge of leading the team, while Qin Sheng will be in charge of planning and strategizing. There won't be any strong opponents in the qualifier round. Only the teams from the 4 elemental academies are worthy of our attention. The two of you are strong enough. If Zhu Qing takes the field, she'll be able to sweep the entire competition as a sole king. After all, the qualifier round is a demonstration of one's strength. It's a one-on-one battle, and the strongest team on our side is a one-on-one battle. Zhu Qing, Qiu Ling Wei, Qin Sheng, you're all good at one-on-one battles. You won't have any problems passing the qualifier round. That's why my presence shouldn't have much of an impact. Lu Yuan smiled as he spoke. No, your presence will have a huge impact on us. If you're here, we won't be afraid of anything. If you're not here, our team will lose its backbone. Everyone is actually very reliant on you. Lu Yuan had just finished speaking when Dugu Yang's voice rang out. She rebutted Lu Yuan's words. Dugu Yang is right. Captain, you're our spiritual pillar. When you're here, we're not afraid of any opponents. However, when you're not here, we feel a little anxious. After Dugu Yang finished speaking, Ning Rongrong chimed in. Really? Am I that important? Lu Yuan chortled. You are. To us, you're the most important. Wang Qiu immediately answered Lu Yuan's question. Her pinkish blue eyes blinked, and there was a look of attachment in them. When he saw Wang Qiu's eyes, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile. He reached out and gently caressed Wang Qiu's smooth, bright golden hair. Lu Yuan lifted his head and looked at everyone. He had a serious expression on his face as he said, I'm very grateful that everyone trusts me and relies on me. However, I'm really going to leave for a while. Furthermore, you can't always rely on me. You need to be independent. This departure is a test for all of you. The content of the test is the promotion competition. I request that all of you don't lose a single match. If you can do it, after the finals, each of you will have a gift. I guarantee that this gift will definitely satisfy all of you. What I want to know now is, do you have the confidence to complete my test? Yes. Everyone shouted in unison. Very good, very imposing. Lu Yuan was very satisfied with everyone's confidence. He smiled and said, that's it then. Everyone is dismissed. However, even after Lu Yuan's voice fell, no one left. What's the matter? I told you to disperse. Why are you still here? Lu Yuan asked with a smile when he saw that the crowd didn't move at all. Captain, I'd like to ask. You're leaving for the promotion round, but will you be back for the finals? Fu Qinsheng asked softly. Of course. I'll be back for the finals with everyone. After hearing Fu Qinsheng's words, Lu Yuan finally understood why they weren't leaving. They were all concerned about whether he would be back for the finals. As he thought until here, Lu Yuan couldn't help but feel warm in his heart. He smiled and said softly, "All right." After hearing Lu Yuan's words, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. They could still handle the promotion round, but without Lu Yuan, they really didn't have the confidence to win the finals. Furthermore, they really wanted to fight alongside Lu Yuan in the finals. After receiving Lu Yuan's confirmation, they felt as if a huge rock had been lifted from their hearts. After that, everyone left one by one. Only Lu Yuan, Zhu Zhuqing, and Wang Qiu'er remained. "Abuchi, what's the matter that made you leave halfway through the competition?" Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help but ask as she looked at Lu Yuan. After hearing this, Wang Qiu'er, who was hugging Lu Yuan's left arm, couldn't help but raise her head. Her face was filled with curiosity. After gently pinching Wang Qiu'er's tender cheeks, Lu Yuan pointed at the holy sword insignia on his head. He sighed and said, "It's all because of this. Has your second test started?" Zhu Zhuqing was a little surprised as she asked. "Yes, I received the news before I went on stage today. That's why I had to leave. You know how important this thing is." Lu Yuan sighed softly. "Yes." After hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing nodded gently. After that, she seemed to recall something and asked, "Then, Chihiro Snow?" "Naturally, Shu'er will be going back with me." Lu Yuan nodded and said, "Oh." Zhu Zhuqing replied softly, "Zhuqing, I'll have to trouble you to work hard over the next few days. I'll have to trouble you to take care of the Heavenly Star team and Qiu'er. This is especially so for Qiu'er. She looks obedient on the surface, but she's actually very active on the inside. You have to discipline her well, and don't let her go out and cause trouble." Lu Yuan said softly, "I know. Leave it to me." Zhu Zhuqing said, "Yes, I'm not worried about you." As Lu Yuan spoke, he lowered his head and pinched Wang Qiu'er's cheeks. "Qiu'er, remember to listen to your sister-in-law. Do you understand? If I find out that you're disobedient and cause trouble, I'll send you back directly. Elder brother, Qiu'er will be obedient. Don't send Qiu'er back. It's very boring there." Wang Qiu'er tugged at Lu Yuan's sleeve. She had a pitiful look on her face, and her large, powdery blue eyes sparkled. She looked so pitiful that even the most cold-hearted person would soften at the sight of her. Lu Yuan was no exception. "That will depend on your performance, Qiu'er. If you perform well, I'll reward you." Lu Yuan smiled as he said, "Yes, don't worry, elder brother. I'll perform well." When she heard Lu Yuan say that there would be a reward, Wang Qiu'er's eyes brightened. She hurriedly expressed her attitude to Lu Yuan. When he heard this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile. He stroked her golden hair again. "When are you planning to leave?" Zhu Zhuqing asked. "In the next few days. I'll look for share later to confirm the exact time." Lu Yuan said softly as he looked at Zhu Zhuqing. "Crown Prince's residence. In Chihiro Snow's study. I knew you'd come." When he saw Lu Yuan suddenly appear in the study, Chihiro Snow's hand paused as he was reading some documents. He revealed a beautiful smile on his face as he spoke softly. "The second test has already started. How can I not come?" He took 2 steps forward and pulled a chair over to sit opposite Chihiro Snow's desk. As he looked at Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan smiled as he spoke. Chapter 600. Have you received the content of the second test? Lu Yuan asked with a smile as he sat down and looked at Chihiro Snow opposite him. "I've received it. The content of the second test, Holy Light Body Tempering. Persevere in the 9 layers of holy light for 12 hours. The time limit is 1 year." Chihiro Snow nodded and stated the content of her test. "Your test is similar to mine. My test is to persevere in the 9 layers of holy light for 12 hours. The time limit is also 1 year." Lu Yuan said with a smile. "Do you have 24 hours? Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow was a little surprised. She didn't expect Lu Yuan's test to be more difficult than her, the real angel's successor. But after thinking about it, Chihiro Snow felt relieved. This test was different from person to person. The more outstanding a person was, the more difficult the test would be. Although Chihiro Snow thought that she was talented, she had to admit that there was still a big gap between her and Lu Yuan. It was normal for Lu Yuan's test to be more difficult than hers. So you can't participate in the advancement test? Chihiro Snow put down the document in her hand and put the pen on the pen holder. Then, she looked at Lu Yuan with her watery golden eyes and asked with a smile. Of course I can't participate, but it's not a big problem. As for the advancement test, I've already handed it over to Zhu Qing. With her as a Soul King, it'll be easy to sweep the advancement test. After all, there aren't any real experts in the advancement test. Moreover, the advancement test will take at least a month. In addition to other preparations and the time spent in the martial spirit city, it will take at least 2 months or even longer. With so much time, I think it should be about time to complete the test. Lu Yuan said. Complete the test in 2 months. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but shake his head with a smile. This guy actually wants to complete the task within a year's time limit in 2 months. Is he really treating the angel assessment as child's play? What if you can't complete it? Chihiro Snow asked. It's fine if you can't finish it. The finals will be held in Martial Spirit City, which isn't far from the Angel Temple. When the time comes, you can just take some time to participate in the finals. It's very convenient and won't delay anything, Lu Yuan said with a smile. That's true. After listening to Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow nodded. It seems that this guy has already arranged everything, which is in line with his character. What about you, Cher? The second round of the angel exam is around the corner. You'll definitely be away for a long time. Are you prepared for this? You're the crown prince. You can't disappear for such a long time for no reason, Lu Yuan said softly as he looked at Chihiro Snow. Of course I am. When I became the crown prince, in order to prevent any unforeseen events, I've already found someone with a similar figure to me as a candidate. When I'm not around, she'll pretend to be Xue Qinghe and take care of the country's affairs on my behalf. Otherwise, when I waited for you in the Martial Soul Palace for so long, if no one took my place to pretend to be Xue Qinghe, I would have been exposed long ago. How could I be fine now? Chihiro Snow said. I see. It's good that you're prepared. After hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan couldn't help but nod. After that, he seemed to have thought of something and asked, this person won't be exposed, right? You were able to successfully pretend to be Xue Qinghe because you have the angel soul bone. Even a titled Douluo wouldn't be able to tell. But what about the person who took your place? Will she be able to hide herself well? You have to know that you can learn these habits in secret, but it's not easy to disguise yourself well and not let others find out that you're a fake, especially if you want to hide from the eyes of those high-ranked soul masters. Lu Yuan looked a little worried as he looked at Chihiro Snow. Don't worry, the person who's impersonating me is also very good at concealing herself. Her disguise was created using the soul bone of a nightmare beast that's over 50,000 years old, and it's very effective at concealing herself. Even though it's not as effective as an angel's soul bone, there are still some flaws that a soul Douluo can't discover. Even a titled Douluo won't be able to tell if they don't look carefully. There aren't many titled Douluo in the Heaven Do imperial family. The most common ones are Ning Fengji, the sword Douluo, or the bone Douluo. Therefore, I'll make sure that she doesn't meet Ning Fengji during the qualifier competition. After the qualifier competition is over, she should represent Emperor Shui Yi and follow the team to Martial Spirit City. When the time comes, I'll switch with her. This way, no one will know. After saying that, Qian Renshua's face revealed a trace of a smile. As expected of Cher. You're very thoughtful. However, there's still a little risk. Even if she doesn't look for Ning Fengji, it doesn't mean that Ning Fengji won't look for her. After all, Ning Fengji is Xue Qinghe's teacher. There's a high chance that he'll look for her. Once she meets Ning Fengji, the sword Douluo or the bone Douluo by Ning Fengji's side might see through her. Therefore, to prevent Ning Fengji from leaving for a month or two, I'll instruct Uncle Yang to pester Ning Fengji during this time so that he won't have time to appear in the Heaven Do imperial family. Cher, what do you think of my idea? Lu Yuan asked with a smile. That's a good idea. This way, there won't be any possibility of being exposed. Chihiro Snow's lips curled into a brilliant smile. So, Cher, when are you planning to return to the Martial Soul Palace? Lu Yuan asked gently as he tapped his finger on the table. The day after tomorrow. There are some things that I have to arrange so that there won't be any mistakes. I'll also give you a day to accompany Zhu Zhuqing. Chihiro Snow chuckled. Then I have to thank you. You're really thoughtful. You even gave me a day to accompany Zhu Qing. Lu Yuan said with a half smile. What? You don't want to use a day to accompany Zhu Zhuqing? How about this? From now on, you don't have to go anywhere. Just stay here with me. Chihiro Snow glanced at Lu Yuan and snapped. Don't. A day is a day. It's better than nothing. I just didn't think that you'd be in such a hurry to leave. Lu Yuan hurriedly waved his hand when he heard Chihiro Snow's words. Time waits for no one. Furthermore, the heavenly angel trial is related to becoming a god in the future. How can I not be in a hurry? Chihiro Snow said. That's true. Lu Yuan nodded slightly when he heard this. But, Lu Yuan's voice suddenly rose a few octaves. But what? Chihiro Snow asked in confusion. It's nothing. I originally wanted to stay with you tonight, but since there's only a day left, I'll have to go back tonight. Lu Yuan chuckled. Chapter 601. I wanted to stay with you, but since there's only one day left, I have to go back tonight, Lu Yuan said with a smile. If you want to go back, then go back. I don't need your company. Chihiro Snow glanced at Lu Yuan and pretended not to care. You really don't need my company? Lu Yuan asked with a smile. I don't need it. Chihiro Snow said indifferently. Sigh, how sad. My Cher doesn't need my company. Lu Yuan collapsed on the chair, looking as if he had nothing left to live for. The despair in his eyes and the sadness on his face made Chihiro Snow want to laugh. This guy is messing around again. All right, stop messing around. Chihiro Snow rolled his eyes at Lu Yuan and said softly. All right. Lu Yuan sat up straight. In the blink of an eye, he was back to his usual calm self. The speed at which he changed his expression made Chihiro Snow speechless. Since we've agreed, I'll go back first. I'll look for you in the morning the day after tomorrow, Lu Yuan said as he stood up. Wait, Abuchi. Don't go yet, Chihiro Snow called out when he saw that Lu Yuan was about to leave. Is there anything else, Cher? Lu Yuan asked. Have dinner with me before you leave, Chihiro Snow's gentle voice sounded. There was a hint of attachment in her tone. All right then. Hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan was stunned at first. Then, his heart skipped a beat. He couldn't help but smile warmly. After having dinner with Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan returned to the Dragon King Palace. After delegating some matters to Yang Shaozhe and asking him to think of a way to delay Ning Fengji, Lu Yuan finally relaxed. The second test came at a bad time, so Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow had to make sufficient preparations to hide their identities. Yang Shaozhe had always been a reliable person. Since he had instructed him, he would definitely hold Ning Fengji back. However, Lu Yuan couldn't be bothered to figure out how to stall for time. Yang Shaozhe probably had his own way of doing so. Lu Yuan took Zhu Zhuqing and Wang Qiu'er around Heaven Do Imperial City for the rest of the day after handing the matter over to Yang Shaozhe. After all, after this separation, the next time they would meet would probably be 2 or 3 months later. Happy times were always short. A day passed in the blink of an eye. The next morning. The sun hadn't risen yet. Purple energy drifted in the sky. Lu Yuan had already woken up from his sleep. He was fully dressed. As he looked at Zhu Zhuqing, who was still sound asleep, Lu Yuan smiled. He gently kissed Zhu Zhuqing's forehead before he turned around and walked out. As soon as Lu Yuan left the room, Zhu Zhuqing, who had been sleeping soundly, woke up. She touched her forehead and asked in a cold voice, "Has he left already?" Her voice was gentle, but there was a tinge of reluctance in it. 2 streaks of golden light flashed across the sky, leaving 2 faint golden scars in the clouds. These two streaks of golden light belonged to none other than Chihiro Snow and Lu Yuan, who were flying at top speed. It had been 3 days since they set off from Heaven Do Imperial City. In these 3 days, the two of them had traveled at top speed. They were about to reach Martial Spirit City. "Share, you can rest if you're tired. You don't have to rush." Lu Yuan felt a little heartache as he looked at Chihiro Snow, who was sweating profusely. Chihiro Snow shook his head and said, "There's no need. I can still do it. We're not far from Martial Spirit City. We'll be there soon. I'll rest when we reach Martial Spirit City." "Ah, you're so stubborn." Lu Yuan couldn't help but shake his head when he heard this. Chihiro Snow was good at everything, but he was a little stubborn. He was already so tired, but he wasn't willing to rest. Why was he in such a hurry? "Share, give me your hand," Lu Yuan said to Chihiro Snow. Chihiro Snow was stunned when he heard this. Then, he extended his right hand as he was told. Lu Yuan flapped the dragon wings on his back and adjusted his speed to be on par with Chihiro Snow's. Then, he grabbed Chihiro Snow's hand with his left hand. Dense white light poured from Lu Yuan's hand into Chihiro Snow's body. It was the clear Qi divine energy. The clear Qi divine energy had countless uses. It could expel fatigue and recover one's mind. Since Chihiro Snow wasn't willing to rest, Lu Yuan could only use the clear Qi divine energy. With the clear Qi divine energy pouring in, Chihiro Snow's face quickly became rosy again. The sweat on his forehead also disappeared without a trace. He became even more energetic. "Abuchi, your clear Qi divine energy is really a jack of all trades. It can heal injuries, recover, and even help the bloodline evolve. It really has countless uses," Chihiro Snow said with a smile. Lu Yuan smiled faintly when he heard this. The clear Qi divine energy was indeed very useful. Now, he had only scratched the surface. "Do you feel better now?" Lu Yuan asked with a smile. "Yes, I feel much better," Chihiro Snow nodded and said. "That's good. Next, you can hold my hand and fly, so that you don't get tired again. You don't know how much my heart aches when I see your tired face," Lu Yuan said. "That's good. I want you to feel sorry for me." Chihiro Snow raised his head slightly and said proudly, "You." Lu Yuan sighed softly and squeezed Chen Renshua's palm. He could feel the warmth coming from her soft and delicate hand. He smiled and unconsciously tightened his grip on her hand. Half an hour later, the two finally arrived at Martial Spirit City. After returning to Martial Spirit City after several months, the two of them felt a little emotional. Although Heaven Do City wasn't much worse than Martial Spirit City, they didn't have a sense of belonging. Only here could they feel like home. Holding Chihiro Snow's hand, the two of them directly entered Martial Spirit City. After passing through the guards of the Temple Knights and looking at the huge palace in the distance, Chihiro Snow looked at Lu Yuan and asked softly, "Abuchi, do you want to go back to see her first, or do you want to come with me to the Angel Temple to take the test?" "I'll go see teacher first. I'll go to the Angel Temple to find you later," Lu Yuan said softly. "All right then. Come quickly. I'll wait for you," Chihiro Snow said. "Yes. I'll be there in a while," Lu Yuan said with a warm smile. After parting ways with Chihiro Snow halfway, Lu Yuan directly walked in the direction of the Pope's palace. At this moment, the sun was high in the sky. Bibidon should be handling government affairs in the side hall of the Pope's palace. Moreover, he had swaggered back and didn't hide his whereabouts at all. Bibi Dong should have known that he had returned long ago. Perhaps she was now waiting for him in the side hall to meet her. Lu Yuan secretly guessed. Lu Yuan's footsteps weren't slow. In less than the time it took to drink a cup of tea, Lu Yuan had already entered the Pope's palace and walked towards the side hall. Chapter 602. After being conferred the title of Holy Son, he could see whoever he wanted. In the past, when he wanted to enter the Pontiff's palace, he still needed to report his arrival. Now, he didn't need to. Once his identity was revealed, he could directly enter the Pontiff's palace to look for Bibidon. Not long after, Lu Yuan arrived outside the side chamber. Standing outside the door and looking inside, Bibidon's beautiful figure came into view. Is it Abuchi? Come in. Lu Yuan's footsteps never softened. With Bibidon's perception, she naturally knew that someone had come. And the only person who could enter the side chamber to look for her without reporting was Lu Yuan. Hearing Bibidon's voice, Lu Yuan directly stepped into the side chamber. In the side chamber, Bibidon was sitting on a chair. In front of her was a desk full of various documents. Bibidon was holding a thin brush in her hand and was reviewing them. Hearing Lu Yuan's footsteps, Bibidon put down her brush and raised her head slightly. Looking at Lu Yuan, who was dressed in white and looked very handsome, the corners of Bibidon's lips curled up slightly. There was a warm smile on her face. You're back. Bibidon said softly. Yes, I'm back. Looking at Bibidon's beautiful face, Lu Yuan said softly. Today, Bibidon was especially beautiful. She was dressed in a gorgeous pontiff's robe and wore a pontiff's crown on her head. Her entire person revealed a noble and graceful temperament. Her pretty face was so beautiful and fair, without a single blemish. Her pink eyes were lovely and moving, as if they could speak. Her slightly furrowed brows added a touch of sadness between them. Not only did this sadness not destroy her beauty, but it also added a kind of sad beauty to her. Bibidon's charm had reached the pinnacle with his graceful bearing and sorrowful beauty. His final smile was like 100 flowers blooming, bright and beautiful beyond compare. Even though Lu Yuan had seen many beautiful women, every time he saw Bibidon, he would be amazed by her beauty. She wasn't the most beautiful, and Jiyu Yuana and Chihiro Snow were both slightly more beautiful than her. However, she was a perfect combination of grace and elegance, strength and weakness, forming her own unique style and temperament. In terms of charm, she wasn't inferior to Chihiro Snow and Jiyu Yuana at all. Sometimes, a person's charm wasn't just based on their appearance, and appearance wasn't the only standard to judge a beauty. Other than appearance, there was also temperament. Temperament was a very magical thing. No matter how beautiful a woman was, if she didn't have her own temperament, then she would feel bored after looking at her for a few days at most. However, if she had her own temperament, then it would be different. Not only would you not feel bored after looking at her for 100 times, but the more you looked at her, the more interesting she would become. Bibidon's appearance and temperament were undoubtedly the best. Of course, Chihiro Snow and the others were also like this. After all, Lu Yuan had chosen the best beauties, and the best beauties had a characteristic, that was, temperament and appearance coexisting, so a real beauty actually had her own unique charm. Maybe this was also the reason why some playboy scum liked to find several wives. And those who only flirted but didn't marry, they weren't scum men, they were scum. Seeing Lu Yuan looking straight at her, Bibidon's pretty face was a little red. Although Lu Yuan was her disciple, after all, he was also a man, not to mention that although Lu Yuan was only 14 years old, his development was very mature, and he looked almost the same as a 20-year-old young man. Lu Yuan looked at her like this. As a woman, and a very pure woman, Bibidon would naturally be shy. Of course, this was also because Lu Yuan had a close relationship with Bibidon. If it was another person who looked at Bibidon like this, they would have been pulled down and dismembered, not to mention making Bibidon feel shy. With a little shyness in her heart, Bibidon gently glared at Lu Yuan. Being glared at by Bibidon, Lu Yuan suddenly recovered. Looking at Bibidon's somewhat dissatisfied expression, Lu Yuan smiled and said, "Teacher, you are too beautiful, I accidentally stared at you. You only know how to talk nonsense." Bibidon rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan and said reproachfully, "Hee hee." Hearing this, Lu Yuan chuckled and scratched his head a little awkwardly. "Come and sit." Bibidon pointed at a small chair beside her and said. Hearing this, Lu Yuan nodded and walked forward, sitting down beside Bibidon. "Why did you suddenly come back? I remember that at this time, the promotion round should have just begun." Bibidon looked at Lu Yuan and asked softly, "I didn't want to come back, but the second round has begun, so I had to come back." Lu Yuan pointed at the holy sword brand on his head and said softly, "The second round has begun." Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Bibidon could not help but murmur softly, "Oh, right. Teacher, How is your situation? Is the Russian test going smoothly? Lu Yuan asked softly with a trace of concern in his voice. In the past, Bibidon had rejected the Neptune's heart. In fact, even now, Lu Yuan still had a knot in his heart. It's going well at the moment. Looking at Lu Yuan's concerned eyes, Bibidon's heart warmed. She raised her lily-white hand and gently rubbed Lu Yuan's head. Teacher, you have to be careful. After all, the Rakshasa god is the god of evil thoughts. I'm afraid that she will affect your mind. If you find anything wrong, give up immediately. Even if you don't like the inheritance of the Neptune, we can continue to look for the inheritance of other gods. There are many inheritances of gods in this world. It's not necessary to go against Rakshasa. Lu Yuan said earnestly. Teacher knows. Don't worry. Bibidon said softly as she gently rubbed Lu Yuan's head. Okay. Lu Yuan nodded, then grabbed Bibidon's hand on top of her head and gently held it in the palm of his hand. By the way, since you're back, then I'll send a message to your senior sister to come back. This girl misses you very much. These days when you weren't here, she was practicing hard every day to temporarily suppress her longing for you. Your senior sister loves you so much. You can't let her down. After the finals, accompany her well. It just so happens that I have a place for you too to go and gain experience. Bibidon said softly. Gain experience? Teacher, are you talking about the massacre city? Lu Yuan asked. You know about the massacre city? Looking at Lu Yuan, Bibidon's face was a little surprised. I know. The massacre city is a relic left behind by the Asura god and the Rakshasa god. After obtaining 100 consecutive victories in the hell killing field in the massacre city, you can set foot on the road to hell. Once you pass the road to hell, you can obtain the title of killing god and the domain of killing god. Lu Yuan said softly. Chapter 603. You even know about the death god domain? After hearing Lu Yuan's words, the surprise on Bibidon's face became even stronger. This disciple of his really knew a lot. Hehe, of course I know about this. Moreover, I also know that teacher is also one of the death gods, and the last one in the world, because the other one, Tang Hao, is already dead. Lu Yuan said with a mischievous smile. You also know about this? Bibidon looked at Lu Yuan with a strange expression and asked with a smile, Tell me, where did you get all this information? Hehe, I can't say this. This is a secret. I'll tell teacher later, not now. Lu Yuan said with a smile. Stinking brat, you're still playing this game with your teacher. Bibidon glared at Lu Yuan and said snappily. Hehe. Again with a mischievous smile, his two hands gently pinched Bibidon's jade-like hands. Under Bibidon's somewhat reproachful gaze, Lu Yuan continued to ask, So teacher wants me and senior sister to go to the massacre city for the death god domain, right? En. Hearing this, Bibidon gently nodded and said, The death god domain is very powerful. If you can obtain it, your strength will increase by a lot. Although you now have the golden dragon domain, the more domains you have, the better. Moreover, your senior sister really needs a talent domain. If she goes to the massacre city alone, teacher will inevitably be a little worried, but if you accompany her, passing through the hell's path should not be a problem. After returning this time, I'm going to confer the title of saintess to your senior sister, and then I'll bestow a marriage between you two. Hearing that Bibidon was going to bestow a marriage between himself and Hulena, Lu Yuan was overjoyed and quickly asked, Really, teacher? It's true. Both of you are the people that teacher cares about the most. You are also the only two people in the world who care about teacher. Whether it's for public or private reasons, teacher should help you two get married, Bibidon said with a gentle smile. Teacher, you're so nice, Lu Yuan said with a smile as he placed Bibidon's hand on his face. Isn't it natural for a teacher to treat you well? Bibidon gently touched Lu Yuan's face and said with a smile. Hehe. Lu Yuan laughed. Then, he seemed to have thought of something and asked, Teacher, what about Cher? Cher. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Bibidon was stunned. A complicated expression appeared on his face as he said, Cher should come along too. Sendryu will not fall behind me in this matter. He will handle it. Oh, Lu Yuan couldn't help but let out a soft "oh." Then, he asked, "What about Zhu Qing, teacher? Don't push your luck. Zhu Qing's matter, you solve it yourself." Bibidon glared at Lu Yuan and said snappily. "Okay then." Hearing Bibidon's words, Lu Yuan could only take back his thoughts. It seemed that it was unrealistic to ask Bibidon to bestow a marriage between Zhu Qing and Bibidon. But thinking about it, it was indeed a bit too much to bestow a marriage 3 times at once. However, Bibidon not bestow a marriage did not mean that he could not be engaged to Zhu Qing. When the finals were over, he would first go to the Sionra Empire, then go to the massacre city with Hulena. After all, Dai Mubai would definitely die after the finals. This way, his engagement with Zhu Qing would naturally be terminated. At that time, he could set a new engagement with the Zhu family. In this way, he would not treat Zhu Qing unfairly. Although it wasn't as high profile as Qian Renxue and Hu Liena, it wasn't as grand as it was with so many elders and consecrators as witnesses. However, Zhu Qing would be the first one to be engaged to him. Thinking about it this way, it was considered fair. As for whether the Sionra Empire would be unhappy with his engagement with the Zhu family, it was none of Lu Yuan's business. As long as they dared to make a sound, Lu Yuan would dare to take a few heads from the Star Luo imperial family to play with. Thinking about it, it should be very interesting. Lu Yuan secretly thought in his heart. Seeing that Lu Yuan was silent and his eyes were still rolling, Bibidon could not help but ask, "What are you thinking about, kid?" "Hee, nothing." As soon as Bibidon's voice sounded, Lu Yuan snapped out of his thoughts and immediately chuckled. "What are you thinking about? You must be up to no good again." Bibidon rolled his eyes at Lu Yuan and said, "No, really not this time. Teacher, you can't slander people." After hearing Bibidon's words, Lu Yuan immediately protested. "You didn't this time, but you did in the past." Bibidon asked with a smile. "I didn't in the past either. Am I that kind of person?" Lu Yuan immediately retorted righteously. "Don't I know whether you're that kind of person? Kid, you've been full of ideas since you were young. I think those people in the Heaven Do Empire are about to be toyed to death by you. I heard that in order to rope you in, the Snowy Night Emperor not only gave the green light to your Dragon King Palace, but also gave you the Golden Dragon King's first-class hereditary title?" Bibidon asked with a smile. "Yes, the Snowy Night Emperor came to me himself. I didn't force him. At most, I went with the flow. At most, in 5 or 6 years, we'll be able to digest the entire Heaven Do Empire." Lu Yuan said. "Yes, you did a good job in this matter." The plan to create friction with the Martial Soul Palace was the finishing touch. Bibidon was not stingy with his praise. "It's all because you taught me well, teacher," Lu Yuan said with a smile. "I didn't teach you these things. I'm ashamed to say that ever since you became my disciple, I haven't taught you much. You've basically been self-taught. Come to think of it, I'm not a good teacher," Bibidon said with a hint of self-mockery. "Teacher, don't say that. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have so many cultivation resources, and I wouldn't have had the opportunity to read so many books. I also wouldn't have been able to become the holy son of the Martial Soul Palace. Although you haven't taught me much, your influence on me is incomparably far-reaching. In my heart, you, Cher, and my senior sisters are the most important people in my heart," Lu Yuan said with a serious expression. "Kid, you still have some conscience." Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Bibidon's heart warmed. Unconsciously, she revealed a brilliant smile. In that instant, Lu Yuan couldn't help but stare at her in a daze. "Come back to your senses. You can also stare at an old woman like me," Bibidon said softly, a faint blush on her face. Bibidon said softly, and Lu Yuan immediately came back to his senses. A trace of embarrassment appeared on his face. "You should be going to the Angel Temple later, right?" Bibidon asked. "Yes, I'm going to take the second test later," Lu Yuan said. "Then go now. It's getting late. Go early and come back early. I'll call your senior sister back later. Let's have dinner together," Bibidon said. Chapter 604. Putting down Bibidon's lily-white hand, Lu Yuan stood up and said to Bibidon, "Okay, then I'll go now, teacher." "Go, just come back early," Bibidon said with a slight smile. I will." Lu Yuan nodded, turned around and left. When he walked to the door of the side hall, Lu Yuan suddenly turned his head, and his double pupils looked at Bibidon from head to toe, and a chuckle came out. "Teacher, you are really beautiful. Not only are you beautiful, but your figure is also very good." After saying that, Lu Yuan's figure flashed, and quickly left the side hall. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Bibidon's delicate body suddenly stopped, and her beautiful face gradually turned red, and she scolded, "Stinking brat, your mouth is flirtatious again, and you even dare to flirt with me. Your courage is really getting bigger and bigger." But although she said that, Bibidon's mouth couldn't stop smiling. No woman would not like a man to call her beautiful, even if it was the female Pope Bibidon. In fact, it was the same. After slightly flirting with Bibidon, Lu Yuan quickly slipped out of the Pope's palace. As for whether Bibidon would be angry or not, Lu Yuan wasn't worried at all. He still saw the shyness on Bibidon's face before, and since she would be shy, then she definitely wouldn't be angry. Lu Yuan didn't know if his brain was damaged just now, and he actually did such a thing. Could it be that his nature relapsed again, and he wanted to flirt with a beauty when he saw a few words? But that's not right. I have seen a lot of beautiful women, but I haven't flirted with many, only the 4 women beside me. There is no one else besides them. But maybe it's also because the other women are not beautiful enough. After all, perfect goddesses like Bibidon, Chihiro Snow, and Jiyu Yuana are still very rare. That's a possibility. Lu Yuan thought about it seriously and then nodded in agreement. Lu Yuan, who thought he had guessed correctly, hummed a little tune and directly used the dragon swimming steps. The phantom of a golden dragon appeared under his feet as he quickly rushed in the direction of the Angel Temple. Angel Temple. An illusory image of a golden dragon flashed, and Lu Yuan's figure suddenly appeared in the Angel Temple. His Polychoria scanned the area and saw 2 figures standing quietly under the angel statue. They were Chihiro Snow and Sendryu. "You're here." As soon as Lu Yuan arrived, Sendryu's voice rang out. Sendryu and Chihiro Snow turned around at the same time. Looking at the smiling Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan's heart was moved. Sure enough, his share is the most pleasing to the eye. "I'm here." Replying, Lu Yuan directly walked towards the 2. "Grandpa." Looking at Sendryu in front of him, Lu Yuan softly called out. Since he promised Chihiro Snow to call Sendryu Grandpa, Lu Yuan will naturally keep his promise. Hearing his grandpa call him, Sendryu's face couldn't help but reveal a smile, and his expression became a lot more amiable. When Chihiro Snow heard Lu Yuan call Sendryu, her beautiful face was filled with a happy smile. She knew that Lu Yuan was doing this for her, and she was secretly touched. "Abuchi, you came at the right time. The second test is about to begin. I'll take you to the test location," Sendryu said. "The test location? Isn't it here?" Hearing Sendryu's words, Lu Yuan couldn't help but be a little curious. "It's not here. The second test location is in the Angel Secret Realm's Holy Light Palace," Sendryu said. "Angel Secret Realm, Holy Light Palace?" Hearing Sendryu's words, Lu Yuan couldn't help but be a little surprised. He really didn't know about this. The angel god has an angel secret realm? But thinking about it carefully, if the Rakshasa god had a Rakshasa secret realm, then it seemed to be a very normal thing for the angel god to have an angel secret realm. It wasn't enough to be strange. After all, the inheritance of the angel god was in the angel temple, but the angel temple was so small that it definitely wasn't enough for the test. So it was reasonable to open a secret realm for the test. Not every god was as rich as the sea god, who directly had a sea god island surrounded by places that could be used for the test. Deep sea heavy silver was an extremely precious metal, and there was a lot of it there. It was really inhumane to use it as a tool for the test. It had to be said that the place was big, and the money was capricious. Thinking in his heart, Lu Yuan walked to Chihiro Snow's side. "Share." Looking at the beautiful person beside him, Lu Yuan couldn't help but call out softly. He took Chihiro Snow's small hand, held it in his palm, and gently rubbed it. "Abuchi, Be careful. Grandpa is still here, and in such a sacred place like the Angel Temple, don't mess around. Chihiro Snow whispered in Lu Yuan's ear. It's okay, it's just holding hands. Lu Yuan laughed softly. Lu Yuan naturally didn't care about Chihiro Snow's words. Sendryu was definitely very happy for him to be close to Chihiro Snow. Sendryu was a peerless Douluo. Sendryu must have felt that he was holding Chihiro Snow's hand, but this old man not only didn't stop him, but also had a smile on his face. Even a fool knew that he actually hoped that Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow could be closer. As for the sacred and solemn Angel Temple, wouldn't it be good to pull and pull? Don't talk nonsense. If the angel god was really so sacred and solemn, he wouldn't have come up with that absurd first test. Kissing for half an hour, only he could think of that. So Lu Yuan didn't care at all, and there was no need to care at all. Okay, I'm going to open the secret realm. You two take 2 steps back, Sendryu said as he made a hand seal. As the seal changed, a golden vortex appeared on the chest of the angel statue. The so-called angel secret realm was actually inside the angel statue. Let's go in, Sendryu said to the two of them, and then stepped directly into the golden vortex. Lu Yuan and Ibuchi saw this and hurriedly followed. Stepping into the golden vortex, the two of them suddenly disappeared. When they opened their eyes again, they were already in an unfamiliar scene. It could be said that this was a small world. There were mountains, rivers, flowers, grass, and even some small animals. The scenery was really too beautiful to take in. In the center of the small world, there was a huge palace. Sacred and bright golden light shone from the palace, illuminating every corner of the small world. Is this the angel secret realm? It looks very good. Lu Yuan sighed softly. Of course. This is the secret realm left behind by the angel god. It is a place for angels to take the test. The huge palace in front of us is the Hall of Holy Light. Follow me, Sendryu said as he led the way in front. Lu Yuan and Ibuchi followed closely behind. The three of them slowly walked towards the huge palace. Chapter 605. The Hall of Holy Light is also known as the Hall of Angels. It contains the memorial tablets of all those who possessed the martial spirit of angels. Every one of them fought against evil all their lives and made outstanding contributions to the continent. Therefore, after they died, their memorial tablets were stored in the Hall of Holy Light to commemorate their achievements and also for future generations to pay tribute to. As they walked, Sendryu introduced the basic situation of the Angel Hall to the two of them. Hearing Sendryu's words, Lu Yuan narrowed his eyes and asked softly, Grandpa, does that mean that Cher's father's memorial tablet is also in the Hall of Holy Light? Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow also cast a curious look. She also wanted to know if her father's memorial tablet was also in the Angel Hall. His memorial tablet is not here. He is not qualified. Those who can enter the Hall of Holy Light for future generations to pay tribute to have made a lot of contributions to the continent. Cher's father's aptitude was average, his achievements were limited, and he did not have many contributions. If you have to say what contribution he made, then it would be to leave behind Cher. She is the person that our angel clan has been waiting for 10,000 years. Sendryu sighed softly with a hint of relief in his tone. He was really relieved to be able to see Chihiro Snow trigger the 9 angel trials in his lifetime. His only regret was that he might not be able to see Cher and Ibuchi get married and have children. After all, by the time Cher became a god, he would already be long gone. And before becoming a god, in order to complete the trials and avoid distraction, Cher and Ibuchi would not think about having children. Sigh, in the end, he would not be able to see his great-grandson. Sendryu sighed softly in his heart. Not here. Hearing Sendryu's words, Lu Yuan felt a lot better. After all, Chihiro disease was not in the Hall of Holy Light. If even he was in there, then Lu Yuan would really have to re-examine the angel clan. Fortunately, Chen Xuanji was not in there. It seemed that the 1,000 streams of light was still a little stubborn. Disregarding everything else, the 1,000 streams of light of the angels was still in his heart. He did not include his son, who had a human face but a beast's heart, inside. Otherwise, the Holy Light Palace would not be called the Holy Light Palace. Hall of Filth, so as to avoid using the word holy to disgust people. Unlike Lu Yuan, Qian Renxue looked a little disappointed when she heard that her father's memorial tablet was not in there. She still had a good impression of Chihiro disease. He was one of the few people who loved her. When she was 6 years old, her martial soul had just awakened. Her innate rank 20 soul power talent shocked the entire upper echelons of the martial soul palace. She was also very happy and was about to tell her father who loved her about her talent. But suddenly, bad news came. Her father was seriously injured by Tang Hao and died not long after. This was a big blow to the young Chihiro Snow. In addition, Bibidon did not care about her and even showed a disgusted expression to her. This caused Chihiro Snow's young heart to suffer an irreparable injury. She had experienced the fickleness of human nature since she was young. She did not have the love of her parents and even her mother hated her. That was why Chihiro Snow developed such a character in the original work. She was cold, stubborn, competitive, ruthless, and extremely controlling. That was why she hated Bibidon so much. In this life, Chihiro Snow met Lu Yuan. With Lu Yuan's company, her heart had a place to stay. Her character changed a lot and she also had her own love. But even so, she still hated Bibidon in her heart. Even if Lu Yuan persuaded her many times, she still could not get over the hurdle in her heart. But in fact, Chihiro Snow was a person who cared a lot about relationships. She also had deep feelings for Chihiro disease because he was very good to her. Although she was only 6 years old when Chihiro disease died, she had already remembered his kindness in her heart. So, when she heard that Chihiro disease's memorial tablet was not in the Holy Light Palace, she showed a disappointed expression. Sensing Chihiro Snow's disappointment, Lu Yuan gently squeezed her palm and looked at her with concern. Sensing Lu Yuan's gaze, the disappointment on Chihiro Snow's face was swept away. She smiled sweetly at Lu Yuan and could not help but hold Lu Yuan's hand a little tighter. Following Sendryu, Lu Yuan and Chihiro soon arrived at the Holy Light Palace. The Holy Light Palace stood tall. Under the Holy Light Palace, there were 9 high steps. That's right, there were only 9 steps. But these 9 steps were extremely wide and tall. Each step was 10 meters high, 20 meters wide, and 200 meters long. The 9 steps stacked on top of each other was really spectacular. Every step was shrouded in a layer of golden holy light, especially on the 9th step. The intensity of the holy light had reached the pinnacle, and one could even see a bright golden flame burning within. The pressure within was extremely high, and the purity of the holy light was evident. This is the place where you will be assessed. These 9 steps are also called the 9 steps celestial stairs. Each step is covered with angelic holy light. This angelic holy light can train the body, refine the soul, and greatly increase the speed of cultivation. And with every step up, the holy light will become more intense. Not only will the pressure become greater, but even the temperature will become very high due to the increased density of the holy light. On the last step, the holy light will even turn into a pure holy flame. Your task is to stay on the 9th step for 12 hours and 12 hours respectively within a year. Today, you can give it a try first. There's no need to rush to break through. This angelic holy light is very beneficial for cultivation. Don't waste this excellent cultivation opportunity, Sendryu said softly. The assessment will be held here. Hearing Sendryu's words, Lu Yuan was a little surprised. He thought that they would have to go to the Angel Palace for the assessment, and then take a look, oh pooey, at the memorial tablets of the previous owners of the Angel Martial Soul. Who would have thought that they couldn't even enter the door of the Holy Light Palace? The assessment will be held here. You have a year. There are many wild fruits and various wild beasts in the Angel Secret Realm. There's no shortage of food. You can stay here for a long time if you want. Of course, if there's something you need to do halfway, it's fine. You can think about these things on your own. But you must complete the assessment within a year. This assessment is absolutely not allowed to fail. Do you understand? Sendryu said with a serious expression. Yes, Grandpa. Don't worry. 1 year is enough for us, Lu Yuan said softly. It's good that you have this confidence. Seeing Lu Yuan's confident look, Sendryu smiled and said, then I'll go out first. You two can slowly try it yourselves. With that, Sendryu's figure flashed and disappeared in an instant. Chapter 606. Share, why don't we give it a try? Lu Yuan smiled as he looked at Chihiro Snow. All right. Chihiro Snow nodded and said. How about this, Share, I'll give it a try first. What's the situation with this 9-step stairway? You can go up after I'm done, Lu Yuan said. Then be careful. If you can't bear it, come down first. Don't force yourself. Chihiro Snow said softly as he looked at Lu Yuan. Yes, I will. Lu Yuan smiled as he nodded at Chihiro Snow. His figure moved slightly, and in the blink of an eye, he reached the bottom of the 9-step stairway. It looks quite high. Lu Yuan sighed as he looked at the 10-meter-high stairway in front of him. Let me see exactly how powerful the 9-layered holy light on the 9-layered heavenly stairs is. Lu Yuan murmured softly. Then, with a stomp of his foot, a 2-meter-deep pit appeared out of thin air where he landed. Lu Yuan's figure jumped more than 10 meters and directly ascended the first step of the stairway. As soon as he stepped onto the stairway, the holy light, which was also the angel's holy light, directly enveloped Lu Yuan. A faint pressure pervaded Lu Yuan's body. Moreover, the angel's holy light seemed to be drilling into his body. Lu Yuan, who wanted to try the magical effects of this holy light, did not block the invasion of the holy light. Instead, he directly let down his defense and let the holy light enter his body. After the holy light entered his body, it began to wantonly emit light and heat in Lu Yuan's flesh, blood, and meridians. Some even drilled into his bones. At the same time, some even went deep into Lu Yuan's dantian, burning Lu Yuan's soul power. This feeling isn't bad. The angel's holy light's holiness and heat seem to have a tempering effect on my physique and soul power. Although the effect is still very weak, this is only the first step of the celestial stairway after all. The concentration of the holy light is limited, which is why it's like this. When I reach a higher level, this effect will definitely become even more prominent. Perhaps it can really strengthen my physique. My current physique can withstand a 100,000-year soul ring without any pressure, but it may not be able to withstand a 200,000-year soul ring from a great beast. If this 9-layered holy light can raise my physique to a higher level, my 6th soul ring might be able to absorb savage beasts. As for where can I get a soul ring? If I remember correctly, those who participate in the test have a chance to obtain a soul ring when they are about to break through. In other words, my 6th soul ring is already in place. Lu Yuan thought to himself. The pressure of the first step is too weak, and the purity of the holy light is too low. Since that's the case, I'll go to the 2nd step to take a look. Lu Yuan muttered. Under the pressure of the holy light, he strolled leisurely. With a slight movement of his body, he arrived at the bottom of the 2nd step of the celestial stairway. He stomped heavily again, but unlike before, there was not a single crack under Lu Yuan's immense strength. As expected of the 9 steps of the celestial stairway used by the angel god for the test, the quality was still good. With the help of the reverse thrust, Lu Yuan went directly to the 2nd step. As expected, the pressure brought by the holy light is much stronger at the 2nd step. It has increased by at least 50%. I'm afraid that this level of holy light has already reached the limit of an ordinary soul king. However, it's still far from enough for me. Lu Yuan sighed softly. The golden dragon under his feet flashed and his figure rose again. 3rd step. 4th step. 5th step. 6th step. Lu Yuan directly climbed 3 steps of the celestial stairway and arrived at the 6th step. Is this the 6th step of the celestial stairway? The pressure has indeed reached a certain level. Even I feel a sense of urgency. Not only that, because the holy light is too dense, the temperature here has reached a certain level. I can feel that the strength of my flesh and blood is improving at a slow rate. This means that the holy light here has already had a good effect on my cultivation. Furthermore, touching his clothes, Lu Yuan had a strange expression on his face. If he went up another step, his clothes would probably catch fire. Although he was immune to fire, his clothes weren't. Furthermore, there was a limit to fire immunity. Once the level of the flames reached the true ultimate fire, even fire immunity wouldn't be able to completely cancel it out. Lu Yuan's polychoria swept around and saw the sacred golden flames burning on the 9th celestial stairway. He had a premonition that his fire immunity would be ineffective against the sacred golden flames. Thinking about it, since it was a test arranged by the angel god, his fire immunity must have been taken into account. Otherwise, if he could pass just by enduring some pressure, then this test would be too simple. How could the angel's test be so simple? As for the first test, it was just an exception. Let's go down first. I'm afraid I can only reach the 6th step under normal circumstances. I have to release my martial soul on the 7th step. There's no need for that for the time being. I'd better go back and tell Cher about the situation. Lu Yuan thought to himself. With a light tap of his foot, he quickly descended the 9-step celestial stairway and arrived beside Chihiro Snow. How is it, Abuchi? How do you feel? Seeing Lu Yuan, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but ask. This feeling is pretty good. This 9 steps to heavenly steps is quite interesting. The pressure increases greatly with every step. Even I felt a little pressured when I was on the 6th step. Now that I'm on the 7th step, I have to release my martial spirit. And the pressure is only one aspect. What's more serious is that with every step up, the surrounding temperature increases a little. Just now, when I reached the 6th step, I already felt that my cloud silk robe was drying and heating up. If I go up another step, I'm afraid it will directly catch fire. Lu Yuan said softly. Is that so? After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow nodded slightly and asked, how is the effect of the holy light? The effect is very good. Not only can it temper the body, but it can also temper the soul power. Moreover, under the huge pressure of the holy light, the cultivation speed will increase a lot. I estimate that after cultivating in the holy light for 2 or 3 months, we can rise by about 1 level. Lu Yuan said with a smile. That's good. After hearing that the holy light could indeed temper the body and speed up the cultivation speed, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but smile and say, it's good, but there's still a big problem. Lu Yuan rolled his eyes and said, what's the problem? Chihiro Snow asked curiously. Clothes. When we reach the 7th step, our clothes will spontaneously combust. At that time, won't we all be naked? Lu Yuan pointed at his clothes and said, this. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow was stunned and his charming face turned red. This does seem to be a problem. Chapter 607. So, shouldn't we solve this problem? Lu Yuan asked. Yes, we do need to solve it. Chihiro Snow blushed slightly, but nodded deeply. Otherwise, it would be too embarrassing for the two of them to participate in the assessment naked with their clothes burned. I'm easy to solve. I have the golden dragon armor. At most, I can take off my clothes and put it on. But what about you, Cher? Lu Yuan asked with a chuckle as he looked at Chihiro Snow with a strange look in his eyes. Abuchi, what bad things are you thinking about now? Chihiro Snow glared at Lu Yuan and asked with some embarrassment. Seeing Lu Yuan's eyes, she knew that Lu Yuan was thinking of something bad that would offend her. Nothing, Lu Yuan said with a smile after hearing Chihiro Snow's words. I'd be a fool to believe you. Chihiro Snow glanced at Lu Yuan and said snappily. Lu Yuan's eyes had already exposed everything. Cher, do you think the angel god is a man or a woman? Lu Yuan asked. Why are you suddenly asking this? Chihiro Snow was a little puzzled. Here's what I'm thinking. Angel God will be able to see everything we do here. If it's a woman, it won't matter even if she sees some of our private parts. But if it's a man, that won't do. That won't do, Lu Yuan said with a serious face. What kind of nonsense are you thinking about? Looking at Lu Yuan, Chihiro Snow was angry and amused. What is in this man's head? How can he think of all kinds of nonsense? What do you mean by messed up? This is a very important matter. Speaking of which, is the angel god a man or a woman? Lu Yuan continued to press on with his questions. This should be a woman. Chihiro Snow replied to Lu Yuan's questions. Should be. Hearing this, Lu Yuan frowned and said, then you really need to solve the problem of clothes. Otherwise, if the angel god is a man, wouldn't you be seen by others? This is absolutely impossible. Cher, are there any heat-resistant clothes in the Martial Soul Palace treasury? Lu Yuan asked. There should be. I remember there is a dress made of 1,000-year-old ice silk. It should be quite heat-resistant. Seeing Lu Yuan like this, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but find it funny. After pondering for a while, Chihiro Snow said, that's good. The 1,000-year-old ice silk is absolutely heat-resistant. Before the 9th level, you can wear it. At the 9th level, the divine light is so dense that it condenses into divine golden flames. The 1,000-year-old ice silk is definitely not going to be able to withstand the temperature of the divine flames. At that time, I'm afraid you'll still have to squeeze with me. My golden dragon armor can be extended. At that time, when you hug me, the golden dragon armor should be able to wrap you inside. Sure enough, this second exam continues the style of the first exam. The two of us really can't be separated. The exams are all stuck together. Touching his chin, Lu Yuan nodded and said, you're going to take advantage of me again. Chihiro Snow said as he rolled his eyes at Lu Yuan. Hey, Cher, what are you talking about? It's not like I want to take advantage of you. This exam is arranged like this. What can I do? You shouldn't blame me. You should blame this holy and majestic angel god. Why does he always arrange these strange exams? Lu Yuan spread out his hands with an innocent expression. You're still acting innocent after taking advantage of me. After passing this exam, who knows how happy you are in your heart? Looking at Lu Yuan, Chihiro Snow said snappily. Hey, Cher, you even found out. Impressive. Hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan couldn't help but laugh and said. Looking at Lu Yuan like this, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but shake his head. This pervert. Chihiro Snow raised his head slightly and looked at the 9-step celestial stairs covered with golden holy light. He said softly, Abuchi, I'm going to go up and take a look now. Well, I'll go with you. I've just gone up and I have some experience. I can also take care of you while I'm at it. When it came to serious matters, Lu Yuan's expression instantly became serious as he said softly. Okay. Chihiro Snow nodded lightly. Golden light flashed on his body, and a mysterious and ancient chant sounded. The 8-winged angel martial spirit was instantly attached to his body. Chihiro Snow wasn't Lu Yuan. He had the dragon swimming in the great void and could fly. Her method of moving forward was naturally to directly fly up. Let's go. After saying that, the 4 pairs of white wings on Chihiro Snow's back flapped. His figure directly rose into the air and flew towards the first step of the celestial stairs. The golden dragon's shadow appeared under Lu Yuan's feet. He directly followed behind Chihiro Snow. After a while, Chihiro Snow and Yi 1111 arrived at the first step. Cher, how do you feel? Standing beside Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan asked softly. It's okay. I can feel the effects of the holy light. However, the holy light here is still a little weak. Chihiro Snow said. Then let's go up a few more steps. Lu Yuan said. Okay. Chihiro Snow nodded. Once again, he flapped his wings and the two of them flew up again. Soon, the two of them arrived at the 5th step. The holy light on the 5th step is already quite thick, and the temperature has risen to a very high level. At least, Chihiro Snow already felt a great sense of oppression. Cher, are you okay? Lu Yuan asked. I'm okay. This 5th step is very good for me. The pressure is great, but I can still bear it. Moreover, I can feel that the angelic holy light is slowly tempering my physique. My physique is slowly improving. Chihiro Snow said. It's good that you feel good. Cher, do you still want to go to the 6th step to take a look? Lu Yuan asked. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow hesitated for a moment, then nodded and said, "Then let's go up and take a look." "Okay, but you have to be careful. If you can't stand it, immediately retreat. The sixth step is much higher than the fifth step in both pressure and temperature," Lu Yuan said with a serious expression. "I know." Hearing this, Chihiro Snow nodded slightly and said, "Let's go." Lu Yuan took Chihiro Snow's hand. The sound of a dragon's roar sounded, and the shadow of a golden dragon flashed and disappeared. Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow had already reached the sixth step. What a great pressure, what a high temperature. I feel like my body is burning. Not long after they landed on the sixth step, Chihiro Snow's slightly painful voice sounded. Her beautiful eyebrows were slightly wrinkled, and her expression was a little painful. "Since you can't stand it, then let's go down. Go to the fifth step to cultivate first. When your physique can withstand the tempering of the sixth step's holy light, then come up." With that, Lu Yuan pulled Chihiro Snow and quickly left the sixth step of the stairway to heaven. Chapter 608. The fifth step of the stairway to heaven. The stairway to heaven was shrouded in angelic holy light, and it shone with golden light everywhere. However, in this world filled with golden light, there were two figures standing quietly. These two figures were none other than Lu Yuan and Qian Runxue, who were sitting cross-legged. Chihiro Snow's beautiful eyes were slightly closed, and her body exuded rich energy fluctuations. Her 6 soul rings were yellow, purple, and black, and they shone brightly. Her martial soul was an 8-winged angel, and she controlled the power of holy light and fire. This angelic holy light was more useful to her than it was to Lu Yuan. To Lu Yuan, this angelic holy light was more useful in suppressing pressure and tempering one's body. Its effect on soul power wasn't very obvious. This was because Lu Yuan's pure soul power was incomparably pure, and it had been tempered by his pure soul power and vast ocean divine power. This angelic holy light wouldn't have much of an effect no matter how much it was tempered. However, it was different for Chihiro Snow. Not only could this angelic holy light greatly purify her soul power, but she could also absorb the surrounding angelic holy light to slowly recover her soul power. It could be said that she could resist the pressure on one side, and absorb it on the other to recover her soul power on the other. This back and forth would increase her cultivation speed by a lot. Chihiro Snow's only shortcoming was that her body was weak, and she couldn't resist too much pressure. She could only stay on the 5th step for now. Lu Yuan could directly enter the 7th step if he released his martial soul. However, in reality, Lu Yuan wouldn't obtain as much as Chihiro Snow after this test. No matter what, this was the angelic holy lights test. There was no doubt that those with angelic holy light would obtain more. Perhaps by the time Chihiro Snow's test ended, her soul power would be close to rank 70. The 4 pairs of pure white wings on Chihiro Snow's back flapped gently, and the rich energy fluctuations around her body gradually dissipated. Her watery golden eyes slowly opened, and an indescribable noble and dignified aura was released from her body. At the same time, Lu Yuan, who was sitting opposite Lu Yuan, also opened his polychoria at the same time. "Finished cultivating?" Looking at Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan asked with a chuckle. I'm done," Chihiro Snow said smilingly. "Why don't you go to the 6th floor to cultivate? Even the 7th floor wouldn't be able to stop you. Why stay on the 5th floor with me? This place shouldn't have much effect on you, right?" Chihiro Snow asked. "I want to accompany you. Besides, I will be going out later. It will only be a few hours." "It doesn't matter where I cultivate," Lu Yuan said. "Go out." Looking at Lu Yuan, Chihiro Snow was a little puzzled. "Let's go out and have a reunion dinner with teacher and senior sister," Lu Yuan said. "Oh." Hearing this, Chihiro Snow said softly. His face was calm, without a trace of expression. "Come with me, share. We are all family. Let's have a reunion dinner together," Lu Yuan said. "No, I'm not going." Chihiro Snow shook his head and refused. Although at Lu Yuan's strong request, she also lived on the island in the middle of the lake for a while and met Bibidon a few times. Although she didn't speak ill of him like before, she still felt uncomfortable when she saw Bibidon. The relationship between the two hasn't made much progress. After all, it's a knot in their hearts. How can it be so easy to untie it? Hehe, that's not up to you. Seeing Chihiro Snow refuse, Lu Yuan smiled slightly. Then, his body moved, and he took Chihiro Snow into his arms. He directly flew off the arena and rushed towards the exit of the angel realm. Abuchi, you're forcing me again. I'm not going. Being held by Lu Yuan, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but struggle. However, Lu Yuan's strength was so great that she couldn't break free at all. Only a faint voice floated in the air, holding Chihiro Snow all the way back to the island in the middle of the lake. On the way, Chihiro Snow was still struggling, but when they arrived at the island in the middle of the lake, she quieted down and let Lu Yuan hold her hand as they strolled around the island. At this time, the sky was already dark. Lu Yuan and the other three were sitting in the main hall, eating dinner. The four of them were naturally Lu Yuan, Chihiro Snow, Bibidon, and the little fox, Hulena, who hurried back when she heard Lu Yuan's name. The four of them sat together, and the atmosphere was not dull. Although Bibidon and Chihiro Snow were silent, Hulena was very lively. Moreover, she hadn't seen Lu Yuan for a few months, so she was already full of things to say. She chattered non-stop to Lu Yuan about her experiences in the past few months. Lu Yuan also listened with a smile. A faint warmth rose between the two of them. After dinner, they took a shower. Naturally, it was time for the activity. Dragging along Chihiro Snow and Hulena, the activity in the room slowly quieted down in the middle of the night. As for Bibi Dong, who lived in a room not far away, his senses were exceptionally sensitive. He listened to the commotion until midnight. Sensing that the activity had finally disappeared, Bibidon couldn't help but sigh softly. Her jade-like face was full of helplessness. She suddenly realized that she was not sleepy at all. She couldn't help but curse Lu Yuan in her heart. Then, she got up and sat cross-legged. She closed her beautiful eyes and began to meditate. Time passed very quickly. In just a short while, 2 months had slipped through her fingers. In the angel's secret realm, at the 9-step celestial stairway, Lu Yuan and Lin Sanju were cultivating. In 2 months, Chihiro Snow had already climbed to the 7th step. Advancing 2 steps, his progress could not be said to be slow. Under the effect of the holy light, Chihiro Snow's soul power had increased again. He was already at rank 68. Not only that, but his physique had also increased by quite a bit. Chihiro Snow's gains were naturally the same for Lu Yuan. Now, Lu Yuan was sitting on the 8th step, wearing the golden dragon armor and cultivating. The pressure on the 8th step had reached a terrifying level. The density of the holy light was very high, and the temperature was abnormally high. Lu Yuan had already been on the 8th step for a month and a half. The angel's holy light's effect on tempering one's physique was very good. Lu Yuan could clearly feel that the strength of his body had increased by a lot. Not to mention other things, his strength had increased. If his strength was originally more than 110,000 kilograms, it was now more than 120,000 kilograms, an increase of almost 10,000 kilograms. At the same time, under the immense pressure, his soul power had also made a breakthrough. He was now a rank 59 Soul King, and the speed of his improvement was relatively fast. After cultivating for a while, Lu Yuan stood up and looked at the 9th step of the celestial stairway that was filled with sacred golden flames. Lu Yuan's eyes flashed with determination. The 8th step of the celestial stairway no longer had much effect on him. Now, he had to start marching towards the 9th step. Chapter 609. At the 8th step of the celestial stairway, Lu Yuan's figure stood upright. His long black hair was scattered over his shoulders, and his body was covered in a bright golden dragon armor. After being tempered by the angel's holy light for 2 months, not only had Lu Yuan's physique improved, but even the golden dragon armor and other external soul bones had also received considerable benefits. If the golden dragon armor weighed only 20,000 kilograms when he first obtained the soul ring from the Titan giant ape, then after more than a year of growth, coupled with the tempering of the angel's holy light, the weight of the golden dragon armor had now reached 25,000 kilograms. 25,000 kilograms of weight could be said to be quite terrifying. Not to mention anything else, just putting it on someone else's body, it could crush an ordinary soul king to death. And if an ordinary soul emperor was suppressed by this force, they would also be seriously injured. Only Lu Yuan, with his immense strength, could move freely while wearing such a heavy golden dragon armor. Is Ibuchi going to the 9th step of the celestial stairway? Sensing Lu Yuan's movements, Chihiro Snow, who had been cultivating on the 7th step of the celestial stairway, couldn't help but open his eyes. His watery golden eyes flickered with a bright light. Her progress was already very fast, but it was still difficult for her to catch up to Lu Yuan. This guy's progress was really too fast. She had just reached the 7th step of the celestial stairway not long ago, and Lu Yuan was actually going to the 9th step of the celestial stairway. One had to know that from the 5th to the 7th step of the celestial stairway, although it was the same as from the 7th to the 9th step of the celestial stairway, crossing 2 steps, the difficulty was completely different. The difficulty of these 2 steps added together was not even comparable to the difficulty of crossing the 7th to the 8th step of the celestial stairway. One had to know that with every step up the celestial stairway, whether it was the pressure or the temperature, it would increase by a large margin. The density of the holy light of the 8th step of the celestial stairway was at least 80% higher than that of the 7th step of the celestial stairway. The difficulty of stepping up was not ordinary, and it was even more so from the 8th to the 9th step. Whether it was the pressure or the temperature, it would probably reach a very terrifying number. I wonder if Ibuchi can stand firm on the 9th step of the celestial stairway. Looking at Lu Yuan's figure, Chihiro Snow muttered to himself. It's begun. Chihiro Snow's voice sounded. At the 8th step of the celestial stairway, Lu Yuan's figure flashed, and he arrived at the 9th step of the celestial stairway. Lu Yuan's figure. As Lin Feng's step, Yi's aura strengthens his aura. That's celestial aura. It's it SS celestial stairway S aura stairway. It's Lu's, it's soul SS, it's S, Lu's, S, Lu. S. No, it's not enough. Lu Yuan's expression turned serious as he felt that the pressure was still seeping into his body through his golden dragon armor. His golden dragon bloodline started to circulate rapidly, and streaks of golden scales started to climb onto Lu Yuan's body. At the same time, his golden dragon martial soul was instantly attached to his body. His 5 soul rings, purple, black, and red, flickered with dazzling light. His martial soul and bloodline were activated at the same time, and he finally managed to resist the pressure that had suddenly risen. However, Lu Yuan's expression only relaxed a little when he was faced with a huge ball of holy golden flames that engulfed his entire body. Lu Yuan was completely engulfed by the holy golden flames, and the burning pain caused him to scream in agony. Ouch, it's so *king painful. My fire immunity is completely useless. The temperature of the holy golden flames is too terrifying. It's much hotter than the ice fire yin-yang well. I'm afraid it's already surpassed the power of ordinary ultimate fire. After all, even if it's ultimate fire, my fire immunity can still slightly resist it. Lu Yuan sucked in a breath of cold air before he grimaced as he spoke. Fortunately, my golden dragon armor can protect my entire body and resist a lot of the heat. Otherwise, I'm afraid I'll be on fire when this ball of holy golden flames surges up. Lu Yuan muttered to himself. Lu Yuan struggled to sit down cross-legged. The immense pressure and the terrifying holy golden flames engulfed him completely. Lu Yuan released his clear energy and divine power to protect himself from being truly hurt by the holy golden flames. On the other hand, he used this strength to temper his body. He was in pain and happy at the same time. 2 hours later. Ouch, I can't take it anymore, I can't take it anymore. Lu Yuan roared and hurriedly jumped up. He quickly rushed down the 9th step of the celestial stairway, and only stabilized himself when he reached the 7th step, where Chihiro Snow was. Ibuchi, are you alright? Chihiro Snow couldn't help but ask worriedly when he saw Lu Yuan's body emitting smoke and his black hair curling up. I'm fine, It's just a little hot. Oh no, it's very hot. Lu Yuan gasped for breath, and the corners of his mouth kept twitching. If it wasn't for the protection of the clear energy and divine power, he would have been burnt to a crisp. Even the golden dragon armor couldn't completely resist that kind of heat. With a wave of his hand, the Neptune's heart suddenly appeared in Lu Yuan's hand. A gentle blue light was released from the Neptune's heart, enveloping Lu Yuan's entire body. Immediately, the temperature of Lu Yuan's body began to drop rapidly. Awesome. Feeling the cold sensation brought about by the vast ocean power, Lu Yuan couldn't help but moan, and the expression on his face also became calm. Phew. Lu Yuan gently exhaled a mouthful of turbid air before turning his gaze towards Chihiro Snow. Abuchi, is the 9th stage so terrifying? Chihiro Snow couldn't help but ask curiously when he saw Lu Yuan grimacing in pain. This was the first time he'd seen Lu Yuan lose his composure like this. Terrifying? Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows when he heard Chihiro Snow's words. He said, I wouldn't say that it's terrifying, but it's really difficult to deal with. The temperature of the holy golden flames is simply ridiculous. It's even hotter than Sister Xiaotao's phoenix flames. I'm afraid it's even more powerful than ordinary ultimate fire. Even my golden body, which has been refined in the ice fire yin-yang well, can't take it. If not for the golden dragon armor and the clear energy and divine power, I'm afraid I would have been burnt to a crisp by the holy golden flames. With that, Lu Yuan's expression became a little serious. If even you can't take it, what about me? Chihiro Snow asked a little worriedly. Cher, you don't have to be afraid. You have the 8-winged angel martial soul, and you also control ultimate fire. Although you definitely can't withstand the temperature of the holy golden flames, you can still resist it. Furthermore, you still have me. When the time comes, I'll use the golden dragon armor and divine power to protect you. I won't let you get hurt. Lu Yuan said gently as he looked at Chihiro Snow. Okay, then I'll leave myself to you. You have to take good care of me, Chihiro Snow said coquettishly. Of course. You're my woman, Lu Yuan said softly. Chapter 610. Of course. You're my woman, so of course I'll protect you. Lu Yuan said with a chuckle. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow smiled sweetly. Being this guy's woman was actually pretty good. This guy was very good to her and understood her very well. He even helped her carry a lot of burdens and made her feel much more relaxed. Furthermore, when she was in danger, this guy would risk his life to save her. It was really a great fortune in her life to be able to know him. Chihiro Snow thought to herself. Looking at the sweet smile on Chihiro Snow's face, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile. Although cultivating on the 9-step stairway was somewhat boring and tedious in the past 2 months, being able to stay with Chihiro Snow every day was actually something that made him very happy. The time he spent with Chihiro Snow was really too short. To be able to spend 2 months alone with her was really a very good thing. Although the cultivation process was very painful, when the cultivation process was over, the two of them would chat about everything under the sun, picking fruits, fishing, and so on. Occasionally, when they were in the mood, they would find a secluded place to do some embarrassing things. Therefore, although the days were boring, the two of them were actually very satisfied in their hearts. Cher, it's almost noon. Stop cultivating and get ready to have lunch together. You woke up early in the morning, so you should be hungry. Lu Yuan said with a gentle smile as he held Chihiro Snow's hand. All right then. Chihiro Snow immediately replied as she touched her stomach and felt a little hungry. Then let's go down. Lu Yuan smiled gently and held Chihiro Snow's waist. With a step, the image of a golden dragon appeared. Lu Yuan brought Chihiro Snow directly to the bottom of the 9-step stairway. Chihiro Snow landed on the ground and looked at Lu Yuan with a strange look in her eyes. Abuchi, your self-created soul skill just now is really shocking no matter how many times I see it. A self-created soul skill that can allow people to fly out of thin air is really rare. Why, Cher, do you want to learn it? If you want, I'll teach you. Lu Yuan said with a smile. You'll teach me? Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow was a little surprised, but she still shook her head and said, "No, I'd better not learn it." "Why not? My self-created soul skill is very powerful. What you saw just now was only a part of it. The real name is Dragon Swimming in the Great Void. It can transform into a divine dragon to fight against enemies. Its power is definitely extraordinary." Hearing Chihiro Snow say that she didn't want to learn it, Lu Yuan couldn't help but explain. "I know that your dragon swimming in the Great Void is extraordinary, but such a powerful self-created soul skill is definitely very difficult to learn. It will definitely take a lot of time. We are busy with the assessment now, so where do we have so much time to waste?" Chihiro Snow explained gently. "If you say so, that's true." After hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan nodded in agreement. But then, his tone changed and he said, "You won't have time to learn it during the assessment, but I will definitely teach you after the assessment. Senior Sister and Zhuqing have both learned the Phoenix Dance's 6 illusions, but I didn't teach you any self-created soul skills, so I can only teach you this dragon swimming in the Great Void. You must learn this dragon swimming in the Great Void. You can't refuse, understand?" "Got it, got it." Seeing Lu Yuan's serious expression, Chihiro Snow was touched and smiled. Every self-created soul skill required a lot of effort to create. Who in the Douluo continent didn't regard their self-created soul skills as extremely important? He had never seen someone like this guy who forced others to learn his self-created soul skills. Furthermore, this dragon swimming in the Great Void was a very powerful self-created soul skill. After all, just one of its footwork could allow one to fly in the air, not to mention the complete one. Thinking of this, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but smile. This dragon swimming in the Great Void was much more powerful than the Phoenix Dance's 6 illusions. Sure enough, Ibuchi still loved him the most. That's my little Shui. You just have to learn what I teach you. We're one. We've even slept together. You don't have to be so polite with me." Lu Yuan held Chen Renshue's hand and said as they walked. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but blush. He secretly spat. Although what this guy said was true, it was good enough that he knew it in his heart. Why did he keep saying the words "slept together" all the time? Didn't he know that he was thin-skinned? "By the way, Cher, what do you want to eat today?" Lu Yuan asked as he walked while holding Chihiro Snow's hand. "Let's eat some grilled fish. I haven't eaten it for a few days," Chihiro Snow said softly. "Well, okay, then let's eat grilled fish and pick a few wild fruits. That should be enough." Lu Yuan's gentle voice sounded. In the lush forest, Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow's figures gradually blurred until they disappeared. Another month passed. On the 9th step of the celestial ladder, Lu Yuan's figure gradually appeared. He was wearing the golden dragon armor, a blood-red cloak fluttering behind him, and his black hair was scattered over his shoulders. The golden holy flame burned on his body. The intense pain made Lu Yuan frown slightly, but it was only a slight frown. His expression was still calm. The blood in his body was circulating violently, and a rich golden-red blood aura seeped out of his body. His heart was beating slowly and powerfully, making thumping sounds. It was obvious that compared to a month ago, Lu Yuan's physique had once again improved tremendously. The blood aura gradually converged, and Lu Yuan's eyes that had been closed suddenly opened. A bluish-gold light flashed. Now, even without using the clear divine power, I can already stay on the 9th step of the celestial ladder for at least 20 hours with the golden dragon armor. If I use the clear divine power, it won't be a problem for me to persist for 24 hours. In other words, I can already end the test at any time. However, Cher has just stepped onto the 8th step. It will take at least 3 months to pass the 9th step. For the sake of Cher, I can't pass it so quickly. Since I'm still wearing the golden dragon armor, I might consider using my body to slowly touch it next time. The improvement might be greater. This holy golden flame is still very useful. After a month of holy flame body tempering, my physique has obviously strengthened a lot, and my bloodline has also been excavated to a new level. It might not be impossible for me to bear a 200,000-year soul ring now. I can try to break through. But now, I have to go down first. If I cultivate again and the test ends early after 24 hours, it will be a big joke. Moreover, 3 months have passed. The finals should be starting soon. Zhu Qing and the others should be arriving soon. I still have to go out and take a look. As for the golden flame body tempering, I can leave it until after the competition. Lu Yuan muttered. Chapter 6:11. With that thought in mind, Lu Yuan stood up. With the sacred golden flames, Lu Yuan's footsteps moved slightly. In a short while, he arrived at the edge of the 9th step. With a light leap, he landed on the 8th step. At this moment, Chihiro Snow was cultivating on the 8th step. The pressure on the 8th step was already very great. Chihiro Snow had just come up not long ago. It could be seen that her expression was actually a little painful. However, Chihiro Snow was Chihiro Snow after all. She had a stubborn personality and could endure pain. Although the sacred light body tempering was painful and the pressure was so great that it was difficult for her to breathe, she still gritted her teeth and persevered. Chihiro Snow was in the midst of a difficult cultivation. All her spirit and will were fighting against the immense pain. Therefore, she didn't notice that Lu Yuan had come down. Lu Yuan didn't disturb Chihiro Snow's thoughts. He sat down cross-legged not far from Chihiro Snow with a calm expression. After experiencing the destruction of the sacred golden flames body tempering on the 9th step, he didn't feel the pressure and temperature of the 8th step at all. It was simply an easy batch. Lu Yuan's double pupils flashed slightly. He was sizing up Chihiro Snow. Although the two of them had been alone together for 3 months, Lu Yuan wasn't tired of Chihiro Snow at all. Instead, the more he looked, the more he was immersed in Chihiro Snow's charm. Now, Chihiro Snow was wearing a long dress woven from the silk of the 1,000-year ice silkworm. The long dress was white, but an icy blue light flickered from time to time. Perhaps it was because of her martial soul, Chihiro Snow's style of dressing in the past was inclined towards golden clothes. Her temperament was also inclined towards the sacred and noble type. But now, Chihiro Snow, who was wearing this snow-white dress that flickered with an icy blue light, gave Lu Yuan a different feeling. Cold and pure. Wearing this long dress, Chihiro Snow's purity had reached the extreme. My share is still beautiful. I can't get enough of looking at her. Lu Yuan sighed softly. As if she had heard Lu Yuan's sigh, Chihiro Snow, who had been cultivating, suddenly opened her eyes, revealing a pair of watery golden eyes. His golden eyes were a little dim, revealing a sense of exhaustion. Fighting against pain and pressure for a long period of time was actually very taxing on one's mental strength. Once one's mental strength was depleted to a certain extent, they would feel very tired. You're done cultivating? Seeing Chihiro Snow open her eyes, Lu Yuan couldn't help but stand up. He walked to Chihiro Snow and squatted down in front of her. A rich white light directly enveloped Chihiro Snow from Lu Yuan's hand. Under the effect of the clear Qi divine power, Chihiro Snow's condition quickly recovered. The exhaustion in her eyes also completely disappeared. Ian, you're done cultivating too? Chihiro Snow blinked her beautiful eyes and asked softly. Ian, I'm done cultivating too. I'm already confident that I can last for 24 hours on the 9th celestial stairway. Lu Yuan said with a smile. You're really amazing. It's all my fault for holding you back. Otherwise, you could have completed the assessment now. You shortened the 1-year time limit to 3 months, only using a quarter of the time. If you completed the assessment now, the reward would have been exceptionally generous. But with me, the time for you to complete the assessment will be pushed back a lot. Abuchi, am I very useless? Chihiro Snow looked up at Lu Yuan with a faint guilty expression. If she hadn't held him back, Lu Yuan could have gotten a better reward. It was all her fault for not living up to expectations. After 3 months, she had just climbed to the 8th celestial stairway, causing Abuchi to waste a lot of time waiting for her. Who said you're useless? My share is the most amazing. She climbed to the 8th celestial stairway in 3 months. To be honest, share, you should be proud. According to your current situation, You can almost complete the second assessment in half a year. It's half a year early. Sigh, can you still say that you're useless? Moreover, I don't really care about the reward. It's just a little increase in the age of my soul rings. Look at my current soul ring combination. Do you think I care about a mere few hundred years? So, share, don't think too much. Lu Yuan said gently. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow nodded slightly and felt much better. She pounced forward and burrowed into Lu Yuan's embrace. He stretched out his left hand and hugged Chihiro Snow's delicate body. He raised his right hand and gently stroked Chihiro Snow's soft golden hair. Share, I'm going out later. The finals of the Continental Elite Soul Master Tournament is coming soon. Zhu Qing and the rest should be on their way with their team. I have to go out and lead them to compete. This is what I promised them. As for you, do you want to stay here and continue the assessment, or do you want to go out with me? Lu Yuan asked softly. I'll stay here and continue the assessment. Chihiro Snow's golden eyes flashed, then she said with a determined expression. All right then, you can stay here and take the assessment. But you have to be careful. When I'm not around, you can't go up to the 9th celestial stairway. Lu Yuan's eyes were filled with seriousness. I understand. Chihiro Snow nodded and said. That's good. Lu Yuan smiled slightly, then kissed Chihiro Snow's red lips gently and said, then I'll go out first. Go. Chihiro Snow said gently. Then I'll go. This is for you. With that, a light flashed between his eyebrows, and the Neptune's heart appeared in Lu Yuan's hand. A gorgeous blue light flashed and forced the surrounding angelic holy light away, forming a blue domain with a diameter of 2 meters. Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow's figures were completely enveloped by this blue domain. Seeing what Lu Yuan gave her, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but be stunned and asked with some surprise, the Neptune's heart? Yes, the Neptune's heart's vast ocean power also has the effect of healing and mental strength. When I'm not around, you can use it to recover. You also have the pure chi divine power in your bloodline. Although it's a little difficult to use the Neptune's heart's power, it's enough to use some of the vast ocean power to recover. With that, Lu Yuan handed the Neptune's heart to Chihiro Snow. Chihiro Snow subconsciously took the Neptune's heart. Seeing Chihiro Snow take the Neptune's heart, Lu Yuan smiled slightly and pinched her delicate nose, then let go of her delicate body. The phantom of a golden dragon appeared under his feet, and a loud dragon roar sounded. Lu Yuan's figure turned into a golden streak of light and directly flew towards the entrance of the angel realm. In the angel temple, a golden vortex appeared, and Lu Yuan's figure stepped out. The golden dragon battle armor slowly faded away, and Lu Yuan changed into a new set of cloud silk robes. In an instant, his entire person had an air of elegance and awe. Let's go back to the island in the middle of the lake first. I don't know if senior sister is still there. Apart from the first few days, I haven't seen her in 3 months. That girl must be missing me a lot, so I'll go to the island in the middle of the lake first to see her. Hopefully, she's still there. Lu Yuan murmured, then his figure flashed and directly left the angel temple, flying towards the island in the middle of the lake. Chapter 612. Using the dragon swimming steps, Lu Yuan's speed was extremely fast. It didn't take long for him to reach the island. The golden dragon image beneath his feet dissipated, revealing Lu Yuan's figure. Walking on the small path on the island, Lu Yuan's polychoria scanned his surroundings. The island in the middle of the lake seemed a little quieter today. When he entered the main hall, Bibidon wasn't there. It was still daytime, so Bibidon should be handling administrative matters in the pontiff's palace. With that thought in mind, Lu Yuan stepped out of the hall and walked towards his room. Creak. Lu Yuan gently pushed open the door of the room and stepped in. The room was empty, and Hu Liena's figure was not inside. He walked to the bedside. The neatly arranged bedsheets still carried the lingering fragrance of a beauty. Senior sister isn't here either. It looks like senior apprentice sister has gone to train at the Martial Soul Academy since the finals are about to begin. But looking at the neatly arranged bed, I'm sure senior apprentice sister will be back tonight. She's waiting for me. Lu Yuan gently stroked the soft bed as he muttered to himself, a trace of gentleness in his eyes. Since senior sister isn't here, I'll go to the pontiff's palace to see teacher. It's been 3 months since I last saw him. I really do miss him. Lu Yuan smiled. Stepping out of the room, Tang Wulin turned around and gently closed the door. Just as Lu Yuan was about to leave, a figure suddenly appeared beside him. A pair of fiery red eyes stared at him. Lil brother master, you're finally out? Ma Xiaotao's fiery red eyes widened, a trace of hidden bitterness in her voice. Big sister Xiaodao, you've been waiting for a long time, haven't you? Lu Yuan smiled at the sudden appearance of Ma Xiaodao. Just like in the past, when Lu Yuan went out, he was accompanied by bodyguards. It was the same this time. Naturally, Ma Xiaodao was the one following him. It was just that along the way, Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow were accompanying him, so Ma Xiaodao didn't appear. After Lu Yuan accepted the assessment, the Angel Mystic Realm was not a place that outsiders could enter, so Ma Xiaodao stayed on the island in the middle of the lake. It had been 3 months since then. With Ma Xiaotao's impatient personality, she was probably really anxious from waiting. Lil brother master, if you don't come out, I'm going to die of boredom. Ma Xiaodao complained. Aren't I out now? Furthermore, the finals of the Continental Elite Soul Master Tournament are coming soon. Zhu Qing, Qiu and the others will be here soon. You won't be bored then, Lu Yuan said with a smile. Yes. Hearing this, Ma Xiaodao nodded and then asked, Little brother master, where are you going now? I'm going to the Pope's palace to see my teacher. You should come with me, Lu Yuan said. Okay. After listening to Lu Yuan's words, Ma Xiaodao quickly nodded and agreed. Let's go then. Lu Yuan smiled faintly as he strode towards the pontiff's palace. Ma Xiaodao naturally followed behind him. The two of them were very fast. After a short while, they arrived outside the Pope's palace. Sister Xiaodao, wait outside for a while. I'll go in and see my teacher first. After instructing Ma Xiaodao, Lu Yuan walked into the Pope's palace. The Pope's palace was also very spacious. There was no one in the main hall. Lu Yuan's heart skipped a beat as he walked towards the side hall. Indeed, Bibidon was reading some documents. In terms of effort, responsibility, and finesse, Bibidon was really a qualified pope. At the very least, Lu Yuan couldn't sit here every day to handle official matters. Although his political skills were also very good, he personally preferred to live a carefree life. If he became the pope in the future, his subordinates would be very busy. As for why? With a pope who didn't care about anything, how could his subordinates not be busy? Just look at the Dragon King Palace now. Lu Yuan had always been in charge of the big things and had the general direction. He didn't care about the small things and threw them all to Yang Shaozhe and Du Gubo. However, there was no choice. He was born with such a temperament. Furthermore, as the pope, it was enough to know how to use people. There was no need to do everything personally. He could enjoy the rest of his time. Otherwise, what was the point of being the pope? That makes sense. Lu Yuan thought to himself and couldn't help but nod his head. Abuchi, come in since you're here. Bibidon heard footsteps in the side hall. He didn't even raise his head as a gentle female voice sounded. Teacher. Upon hearing Bibidon's voice, Lu Yuan bowed first before quickly moving to Bibidon's side. He placed his left hand on the desk and supported his chin. His eyes recklessly sized up Bibidon's beautiful face. Needless to say, Bibidon really had a different kind of beauty when he was working seriously. Bibidon put down the document in his hand and looked at Lu Yuan's handsome face. He smiled and asked, You rascal, you're finally willing to come out today? Lu Yuan laughed and said, Hehe, my test is almost over. Furthermore, the Continental Elite Soul Master Tournament's finals are coming soon. That's why I came out to take a look. Bibidon teased, I knew that you came out because you had something to do. If you didn't have anything to do, you would be spending your time with Cher. Why would you remember an old lady like me? Lu Yuan said with a righteous look on his face, Ah, teacher, of course I'll remember you. I've always kept you in my heart. Furthermore, you're not an old lady. You're very beautiful. You're very charming. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Bibidon smiled and glanced at Lu Yuan with her beautiful eyes. Heh, you rascal. You only know how to say nice things to make me happy. I'm not saying nice things. I'm speaking the truth. Lu Yuan chuckled. After that, he grabbed Bibidon's jade-like hand and gently squeezed it. Bibidon was stunned when Lu Yuan suddenly grabbed her hand. After that, she rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan chuckled and carefully looked at Bibidon's jade-like hand. Her fingers were white and delicate, slender and straight. They were as delicate as a scallion. When he held them in his hand, he felt that they were soft and boneless. They were like a piece of fine jade. Looking at Lu Yuan's smiling face, Bibidon couldn't help but smile. She liked this kind of atmosphere when she was with Lu Yuan. It was relaxed and warm. She could inadvertently forget all her troubles. At this time, footsteps suddenly sounded from outside the side hall. Your Holiness the Pope, this subordinate has something to report. A voice came in. Suddenly hearing this voice, Bibidon immediately pulled her jade-like hand out of Lu Yuan's hand. Her peaceful face was filled with majesty. Come in. As soon as her voice fell, a paladin knight walked in. He knelt on one knee and saluted Bibidon. What do you have to report? Bibidon asked faintly. Reporting to the Pope, there is a person called Yu Xiaogang outside the door who wants to see the Pope. He also has the Pope's decree in his hand. The paladin knight said. Chapter 613. Reporting to the Pope, there's a person called Yu Xiaogang outside the door who wants to see the Pope. He even has the Pope's token in his hand. The voice of the guardian knight sounded. Once these words were spoken, Bibidon and Lu Yuan's bodies shook at the same time. Bibidon's expression became a little complicated, and there was a complicated look in her eyes that was difficult to understand. Now that she had experienced Lu Yuan's persuasion and her own thinking, the knot in her heart towards Yu Xiaogang was much weaker than it was in the original work. However, she could not refute the fact that Yu Xiaogang's shadow still existed in her heart. A person's obsession was not so easy to completely eliminate. Therefore, when she heard that Yu Xiaogang had come, her heart was still turbulent. However, Lu Yuan was completely different from Bibidon. When he heard that Yu Xiaogang had actually come to find Bibidon, his face suddenly sank, and his double pupils were filled with coldness. He had clearly let Yu Xiaogang go, so why did this guy still come to provoke Bibidon? Why did he still want to hurt this pitiful woman? This woman was already very pitiful. Did this Yu Xiaogang really want her to struggle in pain for the rest of her life and suffer all kinds of torture? At this moment, the killing intent in Lu Yuan's heart rose crazily, and the god-slaying spear spirit in his mind was constantly trembling. Ever since Lu Yuan had obtained the god-slaying spear martial spirit, this was the first time. To be honest, Lu Yuan had never wanted to kill a person so much. Even if it was Tang San, even if it was Dai Mubai, Lu Yuan's killing intent was only mild. However, today's Yu Xiaogang had really touched Lu Yuan's reverse scale. He really wanted to tear Yu Xiaogang into pieces and banish his soul to the 9 underworlds, so that he would never be able to reincarnate. Abuchi. The killing intent on Lu Yuan's body was steaming. Although the god-slaying murderous aura, which contained boundless killing intent and fiendish killing intent, only permeated within Lu Yuan's body, it was not released. However, firstly, Bibidon was very close to Lu Yuan. Secondly, Bibidon also had the killer god domain. He was particularly sensitive to killing aura. He could feel the killing aura coming from Lu Yuan. This time, her soft call woke Lu Yuan up. You go out first. Let Yu Xiaogang wait outside the palace. Bibidon's indifferent voice sounded as he spoke to the guardian knight. Yes, Your Holiness. The paladin knight replied, then turned around and left. Bibidon slightly turned around and looked at Lu Yuan, whose eyes were radiating killing intent. He couldn't help but raise his hand and gently stroke Lu Yuan's face. His expression was tranquil and gentle. Abuchi, wake up. Don't let the killing aura control your mind. Bibidon's gentle voice seemed to have a strange magic, which calmed down Lu Yuan's emotions. Circulating the clear Qi scripture, Lu Yuan slowly suppressed his killing intent. His dual pupil once again regained its brightness. Abuchi, how can you have such a terrifying killing intent? Looking at Lu Yuan, Bibidon asked in surprise. Although she only felt a little of Lu Yuan's killing intent, the purity and fierceness of that killing intent had far exceeded her expectations. Even the killing intent in the killer god domain was far inferior to the killing intent on Lu Yuan's body. Looking at Bibidon, Lu Yuan couldn't help but reach out and grab Bibidon's hand that was on his face. He said softly, "Teacher, this is actually the killing intent that my third martial soul, the killer god spear, carries." Third martial soul, the killer god spear? Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Bibidon was shocked. So Abuchi actually had an unprecedented triple martial soul? Furthermore, the killer god spear was a martial soul named after the killer god. How strong was it? Its strength was definitely beyond imagination. Yes, Cher once said that Abuchi once took out a black spear and destroyed a transcendent Douluo's martial soul true body with a single strike. He even broke his arm. Back then, she thought that Cher was just spouting nonsense because she was too sad. She was also worried about Abuchi, so she didn't pay much attention to this matter. Now, it seemed like this matter might be true. That black spear was probably this god-slaying spear. In this case, wouldn't Abuchi be able to severely injure a transcendent Douluo with a single strike with this killer god spear? This was a little heaven-defying. Abuchi, can you add soul rings to this killer god spear of yours? Or is it like your Polychoria, where it's very strong, but you can't add soul rings to it? Bibidon asked. My killer god spear can add soul rings, just like the golden dragon. It's just that this killer god spear is too strong, and I've only been able to control it for a short while. It's very strong, but I can only use it once or twice before I'm exhausted, or even faint. I didn't tell you in the past because this killer god spear's murderous aura was too strong, and I couldn't control it. I couldn't release it at all. Otherwise, I would be invaded by the murderous aura, and become a beast that only knows how to kill. But now, I can control it. Teacher, please forgive me for hiding this matter from you. I apologize to you here, Lu Yuan said in a sincere tone. I don't blame you. You have your difficulties, and I understand. Furthermore, haven't you already told me? Bibidon smiled gently. After hearing Bibidon's words, Lu Yuan was very touched, and couldn't help but call out softly, Teacher, I really didn't expect my disciple to have the unprecedented triplet martial soul. Abuchi, I'm really proud of you. Bibidon's eyes glowed with a strange light. Twin martial souls were already extremely rare, and could be said to be extremely talented. But compared to triplet martial souls, what could twin martial souls count for? Moreover, this disciple of hers had 3 martial souls, and each one was more powerful than the other. The golden dragon was already the top superb martial soul, but whether it was the Polychoria or the killer god spear, they were all above it. How high could this disciple of hers achieve in the future? Even as his teacher, she couldn't predict it. Hearing this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile. In fact, the Polychoria wasn't a martial soul. He was actually just a twin martial soul, but the effect of the Polychoria was far from what an ordinary martial soul could compare to. The power of the Polychoria was limitless, and what he had unearthed now was just a superficial part. Not to mention cultivating the Polychoria to the great success stage, just cultivating it to the small success stage was enough to beat the entire Douluo universe. Killing the God King was just a matter of a glance. However, it was extremely difficult to cultivate it to the small success stage. The Douluo continent was still too small, and cultivating the Polychoria was too slow. After all, the level of the world was too low, and it couldn't be compared to those top big worlds. Lu Yuan sighed softly in his heart. Right, teacher, are you going to see Yu Xiaogang? Don't go, okay? Lu Yuan said softly. Chapter 614. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Bibidan's delicate body trembled. Her expression became complicated again. She looked at Lu Yuan and remained silent. So, teacher, do you still want to see him? Lu Yuan asked, his gaze fixed on Bibidan. Sigh. Facing Lu Yuan's gaze, Bibidan sighed softly. In the end, she still had Yu Xiaogang's figure in her heart. Teacher, have you forgotten what I said before? He really isn't worthy of your love. Furthermore, what you have for him isn't love, but obsession. What you love is only the image in your heart. He isn't as perfect as you think he is. If a person calls him trash, that person might have mistaken him for someone else. However, if everyone calls him trash, then there must be a reason behind it. There's no smoke without fire, and there's no smoke without fire. Since he's been called trash by countless people, then there must be a reason. Could it be that he's the only one who's right, and everyone on the continent is wrong? Could it be that he's the only one who's researched the so-called 10 core competencies of martial souls, and everyone else really doesn't know anything about these things? That's complete nonsense. You should be very clear that his so-called theories are basically known by those sects with long histories. Let's not talk about other things. Isn't the Martial Soul Palace's theories much richer than Yu Xiaogang's? Let's give another example. Let's take you as an example. What you know, isn't it more profound than Yu Xiaogang's? Could it be that Yu Xiaogang knows how to solve the problem of twin martial souls? Furthermore, I remember that many of Yu Xiaogang's theories seem to have come from the Martial Soul Palace. Furthermore, you have twin martial souls, your talent is top-notch, and you're also the Pope of the Martial Soul Palace. You're high above, and you've even accepted the God's examination. In the future, you can become a god and have an endless lifespan. As for that Yu Xiaogang, he's nothing more than a soul grandmaster. The difference between the two of you is like the difference between heaven and earth. Teacher, I really don't understand. Why are you so obsessed with him? Lu Yuan said as he looked at Bibidan with a burning gaze. Listening to Lu Yuan's words, Bibidan's expression changed. If it was someone else who so calmly said that Yu Xiaogang was trash in front of her, and even belittled him to be completely useless, she would definitely be angry. She might even order people to drag him down and behead him. However, the person in front of her was Lu Yuan, her closest disciple. His position in her heart was extremely high, even surpassing the boundary of a disciple. Furthermore, the most important thing was that Lu Yuan's words were reasonable, and she simply couldn't refute them. Others might not know, but how could she not know? Yu Xiaogang's so-called theory was actually a joke. It was useful for low-level soul masters, but it was useless for people above Soul King. Furthermore, many sects had their own unique research and understanding of soul master theory. Otherwise, why would the soul skills of those sect disciples be more or less the same? Wasn't this the best soul skill combination that the sects had experimented with for generations? If they could even come up with this, could it be that those large sects didn't know the most basic theories? Could it be that among their slightly outstanding disciples, which one of them didn't have the best soul ring combination? In the entire Soul Master world, which Soul Master with some knowledge didn't know what the best soul ring combination was? Could it be that Yu Xiaogang was the only one who knew? It was simply a joke. Therefore, in the face of Lu Yuan's questioning, Bibidan really found it difficult to answer. How did she fall in love with Yu Xiaogang back then? What did she fall in love with him? Right now, Bibidan simply couldn't say it out loud. Yes, she simply couldn't say it out loud. Sighing softly, Bibidan gently said, Abuchi, you're still young. You don't understand matters of the heart. I don't understand matters of the heart. Hearing Bibidan's words, Lu Yuan laughed. Teacher, don't forget that I have 4 girlfriends. Do you think I don't understand matters of the heart? In my opinion, the person who really doesn't understand matters of the heart is you. Back then, you were just at the most innocent, most beautiful, an age where you first awakened to love. You met the most wrong man. You were the noble holy maiden, and everyone was submissive to you. You didn't have any friends at all. Suddenly, you met a fool who didn't know how to please others. You were curious, and after a few interactions, you thought you fell in love with him. But in fact, at that time, even if that person wasn't Yu Xiaogang, but Li Xiaogang, or Xiaogang Wang, you would still think you fell in love with him. After that, you were persecuted and fell into endless darkness. You became more and more attached to this so-called love. But in fact, this was just a beautiful illusion that you gave yourself when you fell into darkness. This is obsession, this is not love. If you had met a few more men when you were young, you wouldn't have fallen in love with Yu Xiaogang. There was nothing about him that was worthy of your love. In the end, you were too inexperienced back then. If you had the experience you have today, you wouldn't have been moved by Yu Xiaogang. Xiaogang. There is the word tough in his name, but in reality, he is just a coward. Lu Yuan said softly, with a faint disdain in her tone. Teacher, do you think there is something wrong with what I said? Looking at Bibidon, Lu Yuan asked with a serious face. This. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Bibidon was speechless for a moment. She carefully recalled the scene when she first met Yu Xiaogang. It was really as Lu Yuan said. Her love at that time was indeed inexplicable. If Yu Xiaogang was replaced by another person, she might have been moved. Thinking of this, Bibidon couldn't help but be shocked. For a moment, she was in a mess. Was it really like what Abuchi said, that she and Xiaogang didn't really love each other? Her heart was shaken. Unlike the previous time, this time it was really shaken. Looking at Bibidon's changing expression, Lu Yuan asked again, "So now teacher, do you want to see Yu Xiaogang again?" Looking at Lu Yuan's eyes, Bibidon nodded firmly. Although her heart was turbulent, she still decided to see Yu Xiaogang. She could also verify whether what Abuchi said was true or not. "Well, since you insist on seeing him, then I will accompany you. But teacher, you have to make an agreement with me. Otherwise, I will not let you go out today." Lu Yuan said seriously. "What agreement? Say it." Bibidon said. "It's very simple. If Yu Xiaogang came to find you just to see you, not only will I not persuade you to give up on him, I will also apologize to him and sincerely give you my blessings. But if he came to you because of something, then from now on, you have to forget him, free yourself, and start a new life. Teacher, just this agreement, do you dare to agree with me?" With that, Lu Yuan looked at Bibidon with shining eyes. Chapter 6:15. Teacher, do you dare to agree to this agreement? Lu Yuan looked at Bibidon as his indifferent voice sounded. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Bibidon was silent for a moment. After a moment, her red lips slightly opened as she said, "Teacher will make this agreement with you." "Good, teacher, you're really straightforward." Lu Yuan faintly smiled as he raised his right hand and said, "Teacher, then let's slap our hands together as an oath. From now on, we can't go back on our words." Seeing Lu Yuan raise his right hand, Bibidon's eyes flickered. In the end, she still raised her jade-like hand and touched Lu Yuan's palm. Slap, slap, slap. The two hands slapped together, creating a series of slapping sounds. After 3 slaps, Lu Yuan withdrew his hand. With a gentle smile on his face, he said to Bibidon, 3 slaps. Now that the oath has been made, if I go back on my words, then let my martial spirit shatter and I'll become a cripple. If teacher goes back on his words, then let Yu Xiaogang's soul be shattered and he'll never be able to reincarnate. This oath is witnessed by the heavens and witnessed by the gods. Whoever goes back on their word will definitely be punished." Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Bibidon's expression changed. This oath was related to the 2 people she cared about the most. No matter who went back on their word, the person she cared about the most would be consigned to eternal damnation. She didn't think that Lu Yuan would actually be so resolute. "Abuchi, why did you make such a vicious oath?" Bibidon looked at Lu Yuan with a trace of panic on her charming face. "So what if the oath is vicious? As long as no one goes back on their word, then nothing will happen. I won't go back on my word, or is teacher worried that you'll go back on your word?" Lu Yuan said with a smile that wasn't a smile. "Teacher won't go back on his word. Moreover, if it's really as you said, and he only came to see me because he has something to ask of me, then it might be a good thing to forget him." Bibidon sighed softly. "Ha, then teacher, you should be prepared. You will definitely lose this agreement. Yu Xiaogang doesn't care about you at all. All he cares about is his theories," Lu Yuan said with a chuckle. Hearing this, Bibidon remained silent. "Let's go, teacher. Let's go meet this so-called master." Looking at Bibidon, Lu Yuan said with a smile. Bibidon nodded and walked out of the side hall. After exiting the side hall, Bibidon and Lu Yuan directly entered the main hall through the back door. "Your identity cannot be exposed, so you should find a place to hide later," Bibidon said softly. "Okay." Lu Yuan nodded and said, "I'll hide behind this screen. My hearing is very sharp. Even if it's a little far away, I can still hear what you are saying. But teacher, don't forget the agreement you made with me." "Teacher knows." Bibidon nodded slightly and walked towards the Pope's throne. Her pink eyes flickered with light as she gripped the scepter tightly. Although her expression was calm, her heart was surging with waves, rolling up and down. Lu Yuan's words had touched her greatly. In fact, she was also struggling in her heart. According to her personality in the past, it was impossible for her to make an agreement with Lu Yuan. But today, her mood was fluctuating violently. She actually made an agreement with Lu Yuan. She knew very well that Yu Xiaogang didn't love her, but in her heart, she still hoped that Yu Xiaogang simply came to see her. It had to be said that Bibidon was actually very naive when it came to relationships. She was like a 15 or 16-year-old girl who had her first awakening of love. After all, she only had a relationship with Yu Xiaogang. They hadn't even kissed. Even holding hands was very rare. Yu Xiaogang was a cowardly man with low self-esteem. When he was with Bibidon, he only cared about researching theories and proving himself. He didn't have any feelings for Bibidon. After that, Bibidon suffered indescribable inhumane torture, so there was no need to talk about feelings. Her understanding of relationships was still stuck at the stage of a young girl's first awakening of love. She was very naive, even more so than Chihiro Snow and Hulena. After all, the two of them had interacted with Lu Yuan before. Their relationship with Lu Yuan had already risen from the stage of first love to that of husband and wife. Chihiro Snow had even experienced life and death with Lu Yuan. Their relationship had already been tempered. Therefore, it could be said that in terms of understanding human nature, although Qian Renshue's means were extraordinary, she might not be as good as Bibidong because of her immaturity. However, in terms of feelings, the current Qian Renshue was enough to be Bibidong's teacher. Lu Yuan's figure flashed as he looked at Bibidon in front of him. At the same time, a light flashed, and a strange octagonal soul tool appeared in Lu Yuan's hand. He unleashed his golden dragon domain, which surrounded a foot around him and cut off sound. Lu Yuan's lips opened slightly, and a voice was transmitted into this strange soul tool. This soul tool's only use was to transmit sound. After Lu Yuan finished speaking, he immediately put this strange soul tool away. His golden dragon domain also retracted into his body. His eyes flashed as he looked in Bibidon's direction. Because of her complicated emotions, she didn't sense anything wrong. Lu Yuan heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, Ma Xiaodao, who was sitting on a railing outside the pontiff's palace, suddenly had a change in expression. She took out a similar octagonal soul tool and placed it next to her ear. It didn't take long for Ma Xiaodao to put away the octagonal soul tool. She looked at the entrance of the pontiff's palace in the distance, where there was a thin man in black with a buzz cut. Her beautiful eyes couldn't help but sparkle. A strong aura slowly rose from her body and spread out. Ma Xiaotao's red lips parted slightly, and her voice was indifferent. "So this is the person that my lord's little brother was talking about? He doesn't seem like much." Ma Xiaotao's eyes flashed with a fierce look as her voice faded. Her body moved, and she instantly disappeared from where she was. Bibidon was sitting on the papal throne in the pontiff's palace. He held a golden scepter in his hand, and wore a papal crown on his head. There was no doubt that he had a noble and graceful aura. "Summon Yu Xiaogang." Bibidon's red lips parted slightly, and his indifferent voice rang out. After a short while, a series of footsteps sounded. A man in black with a stiff expression and a slightly stooped body walked in. When she saw this figure again, Bibidon's eyes were filled with sadness, disappointment, and a touch of bitterness. Was this the man that she had loved for more than 20 years? Before they met, Yu Xiaogang was perfect in Bibidon's heart. However, when they met again today, Bibidon suddenly realized that he was actually very ordinary. He wasn't as perfect and flawless as she had portrayed him to be. Chapter 616. After not seeing him for more than 20 years, Yu Xiaogang had aged a lot. He was no longer as handsome as he used to be. Now, he was like an ordinary middle-aged uncle. That's right, it was very ordinary and there was nothing special about it. Perhaps it was because of Lu Yuan's persuasion, or because Lu Yuan directly revealed that Bibidon's feelings for Yu Xiaogang were not love, but obsession. Or perhaps it was because Lu Yuan had belittled Yu Xiaogang from beginning to end with irrefutable words, explaining the real reason why Bibidon fell in love with Yu Xiaogang. This caused Bibidon's heart to shake violently, and some changes occurred in her thinking. Now, when Bibidon looked at Yu Xiaogang, her eyes were not only numb from falling in love, but also a bit more rational. And it was this rationality that allowed Bibidon to have a new understanding of Yu Xiaogang. But even with this new understanding, Yu Xiaogang still left a deep impression in her heart. Looking at Yu Xiaogang, Bibidon's eyes were filled with melancholy and nostalgia. After sorting out her emotions, Bibidon's face regained its calmness. She looked at Yu Xiaogang and asked in an indifferent voice, "Yu Xiaogang, we haven't seen each other for more than 20 years. Why have you come to see me today?" Her voice sounded very calm, but if one listened carefully, they would discover that there was a trace of trembling in her voice. If one looked carefully at Bibidon, they would discover that under Bibidon's calm appearance, her heart was not calm at all. Her jade-like arm that was holding the scepter had blue veins popping out due to excessive force, and the hand hidden in her sleeve was clenched into a fist. Due to the excessive force, her fingers were clenched so tightly that they turned white. Her chest rose and fell slightly, and her big pink eyes carried a trace of faint expectation. This question was the key to her agreement with Lu Yuan. She really hoped that Yu Xiaogang came to see her purely because he wanted to see her, so she was very much looking forward to Yu Xiaogang's answer. However, this expectant gaze was mixed with a bit of fear. She was afraid that she would hear something she did not want to hear. At this moment, Bibidon's mood could be said to be very complicated, so complicated that it was difficult to describe with words. However, Yu Xiaogang did not seem to notice Bibidon's abnormality. When he heard Bibidon's words, he stood up straight, raised his head, and said with a calm expression, "Bibidon, I came this time because I have something to ask of you." When these words came out, Bibidon's heart thumped. Her beautiful face seemed to have suddenly lost all color and instantly became deathly pale. It was just as Ibuchi said. Did he only think of her because he had something to ask of her? Hehe. She was still too naive in the end. She really had the extravagant hope that this person had specially come to see her. However, she had forgotten the most important thing. If he really wanted to see her, he would have come once in 20 years. She even made a bet with Ibuchi and made an agreement. She really did not know where her confidence came from. She actually believed that Yu Xiaogang would take the initiative to want to see her. Bibidon slightly mocked herself in her heart. Her gaze inadvertently glanced in a direction. That was where Lu Yuan was hiding. Her eyes flashed with a strange light. Ibuchi was right. The current Ibuchi should be very proud. Bibidon's guess was right. The current Lu Yuan was smiling very happily. Although he knew that Yu Xiaogang most likely came because of Tang San's twin martial spirits cultivation problem and wanted to find Bibidon to find out the secret of twin martial spirits, when he really heard Yu Xiaogang personally say that he had something to ask of him, he could not help but feel happy in his heart. After receiving such a heavy blow, Bibidon should wake up a little. Lu Yuan secretly thought in his heart. Bibidon silently retracted her gaze from Lu Yuan. She looked at Yu Xiaogang and asked indifferently, "I didn't expect that with your personality, there would be a day when you would come and beg me. Aren't you very prideful? Speak, what do you want from me?" Yu Xiaogang was silent for a moment, then said, I want to know how you managed to overcome the difficulty of twin martial spirits. Speaking of which, it's quite a coincidence that I was fortunate enough to receive a disciple with twin martial spirits. His aptitude is very high, and his talent is also outstanding. I want to nurture him into a generation's expert, so you want to ask me for the secret of passing the twin martial spirits obstacle? He, but Yu Xiaogang, why should I help you? Bibidon laughed coldly. Hearing Bibidon's question, Yu Xiaogang's originally stiff face became even stiffer. He slightly lowered his head and was silent for a moment. After a moment, he suddenly raised his head. He looked at Bibidon with a gentle gaze and said softly, Dong on account of our past friendship, help me this time. Catcher. A subtle sound was heard. Yu Xiaogang's soul power was low and the sound was very subtle, so he did not notice it. However, Bibidon's expression changed. If she did not hear wrongly, the sound came from the direction where Lu Yuan was hiding. The current Ibuchi must be very angry, right? Bibidon's expression changed. In fact, Bibidon's guess was right. Originally, Lu Yuan was still smiling, but when the words Dong were heard, Lu Yuan's face immediately sank. The killing intent in his heart boiled. He did not control his strength well and broke the corner of a pure gold incense burner beside him. Fortunately, the pontiff's palace was very big and far enough, and the master's soul power was low, so he was not discovered. Otherwise, if it was someone else, Lu Yuan would have been exposed. Gently taking a breath, Lu Yuan suppressed the killing intent in his heart. Even if he wanted to kill Yu Xiaogang, he could not do it in front of Bibidon. It was even better that he did not do it himself, unless one day, Bibidon completely forgot about Yu Xiaogang. If he killed Yu Xiaogang now, he was afraid that Bibidon would hate him for the rest of his life. Hearing Yu Xiaogang call her Dong Bibidon did not feel close at all. Instead, she felt a little disgusted. In the past, she really wanted to hear Yu Xiaogang call her Dong but now, Yu Xiaogang was playing the emotional card. He was using their past relationship to threaten her. One had to know who Yu Xiaogang's disciple was. Bibidon already knew from Lu Yuan who it was. Tang San, Tang Hao's son, had twin martial souls, blue silver grass and clear sky hammer. He had an irreconcilable enmity with the martial soul palace. Once he matured, he would definitely become an enemy of the martial soul palace and her. Did Yu Xiaogang not know this? No, he knew. But even so, he still wanted her to pass on the secret of her twin martial souls to Tang San. Did he want her to personally strengthen her opponent? Then, after he grew stronger, he would personally destroy the martial soul palace and her. This Yu Xiaogang had considered everything for his precious disciple, but had he ever considered her in the slightest? Thinking of this, Bibidon's heart turned cold. This time, she was really hurt. Chapter 617. Yu Xiaogang, please remember who you are. I am now the Pope of the Martial Soul Palace. Please address me as Your Holiness, Bibidon said indifferently as he looked at Yu Xiaogang. The Grandmaster's face stiffened when he heard Bibidon's words. It was as if he hadn't expected this move to fail. Bibidon's tone didn't soften when he addressed Tang Wulin as Dong Instead, there was a trace of coldness in his tone. If Bibidon's tone was indifferent before, then Bibidon's tone was cold now. It was a cold that made Yu Xiaogang feel uneasy. Bibidon's attitude towards him was a little different from what he'd imagined. Yes, Your Holiness. Yu Xiaogang couldn't help but lower his head as he looked at Bibidon's noble and dignified soul. He didn't dare to look directly at Bibidon right now. Your disciple's name is Tang San, right? Bibidon asked indifferently. Your Holiness, do you know Tang San? Yu Xiaogang asked. Bibidon didn't answer. Instead, he continued, Tang San is the son of the vast sky Douluo, Tang Hao. His martial soul is blue silver grass, and he has innate full soul power. His second martial soul is the vast sky hammer. He studied at Notting Elementary Academy from the age of 6 to 12. He joined Shrek Academy when he was 12, but he left not long after. He's suspected to have joined the Vast Sky sect. He's currently the captain of the Heaven Do Imperial Academy's team. He's a soul king, and it's suspected that he's cultivated twin martial souls. Yu Xiaogang, if I'm not wrong, his twin martial souls should have been cultivated to the limit. 2 years ago, he was only at rank 29. 2 years later, he's already a soul king. During this period of time, your precious disciple has done some things that others don't know about. It's also because he cultivated his twin martial souls and used the energy from his soul rings to push himself up. Perhaps if he adds another spirit ring to his second martial soul, he will be like that twin martial soul possessor. With a bang, his body will explode and he will die. This is the reason why you came to find me, right? You want to obtain the secrets of twin martial souls so that your disciple can continue to cultivate his second martial soul? Bibidon asked indifferently. You. How did you know? Hearing Bibidong's words, Yu Xiaogang's face was filled with shock. How could she be so clear about Tang San's cultivation? Could it be that everything was under her surveillance? Yu Xiaogang couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. Bibidon's lips curled up slightly when she saw Yu Xiaogang turn pale with fright. She naturally didn't know about these things, but someone else did. Lu Yuan had used a secret voice transmission to tell Bibidon about Tang San and some of his own guesses. That was why Bibidon knew so clearly. Lu Yuan had another motive for doing this, and that was to verify his own guesses. In the end, Lu Yuan's guess was right. Tang San did cultivate twin martial souls at the same time. No wonder his rank soared so quickly. Not to mention Lu Yuan, even evil soul masters couldn't increase more than 20 ranks in 2 years, because it was too ridiculous. Even with Lu Yuan's talent, the Titan giant ape's sacrifice, the strength of the 3 immortal herbs, and his participation in the angel's trial, he had only increased by 13 ranks in 2 years. How could it be so easy to increase ranks? It could be expected that Tang San couldn't become a soul king in 2 years, even if he cultivated twin martial souls at the same time. Unless he had some other secrets. Furthermore, could his soul power be stable and condensed if he increased his rank so quickly? Lu Yuan's lips curled into a sneer as he thought of this. In order to pursue power in a short period of time, he had sacrificed the unlimited potential of his twin martial souls and casually added a soul ring to his second soul ring. This was truly a foolish action. However, Lu Yuan didn't know that Tang San was already crazy about increasing his strength. He only wanted to obtain enough strength to take revenge in a short period of time, and didn't think too much about other things. Tang San was willing to do anything to increase his strength. Other than finding trouble with Lu Yuan during the Continental Elite Soul Master Tournament, Huo Yuhao's other goal was to obtain the 3 soul bones that would be awarded at the end of the tournament. He wasn't going to let go of any opportunity to increase his strength. Of course, even if Lu Yuan knew what Tang San was thinking, he wouldn't care. Tang San was only a soul king, and even if he was a soul sage, Lu Yuan would still be able to beat him up. A mere blue-silver grass and clear sky hammer weren't even superb martial souls. The current Lu Yuan didn't put them in his eyes at all. He was more concerned about the Grandmaster. When exactly would Bibidong kick this guy out of his heart? This was what Lu Yuan cared about the most. Hence, he stared unblinkingly at Bibidong. You don't have to care about how I know. You just have to know that I won't tell you the secret of my twin martial souls, because I won't nurture an enemy for myself. That's something only a fool would do. Hence, Yu Xiaogang, go back to where you came from. The Martial Soul Palace doesn't welcome you. Bibidong gripped his golden scepter tightly as he spoke indifferently. Yu Xiaogang didn't expect Bibidong to chase him out. He was stunned for a moment, and didn't know how to react. You what? Paladins, send him out. Bibidong gave the order. After the paladins outside received the message, they forcefully dragged Yu Xiaogang away. Only Yu Xiaogang's unwilling roars could be heard in the air. Seeing Yu Xiaogang being dragged away, Lu Yuan quickly came out from behind the screen. His figure moved, and a golden dragon image flashed. In an instant, he appeared beside Bibidong. At this moment, only Lu Yuan and Bibidong were left in the spacious hall. With Yu Xiaogang gone, Bibidong, who was pretending to be strong and indifferent, immediately revealed her true emotions. Her chest heaved up and down, and her pink eyes were filled with tears. Her body swayed violently, and her jade-like hands tightly held onto her scepter. It seemed that this was the only way she could persevere and not fall. At this moment, in a situation where only she and Lu Yuan were present, she threw away all her pretenses, and unreservedly showed her sadness and pain. Seeing Bibidon like this, Lu Yuan sighed slightly. He took 2 steps forward and held onto Bibidon's arm to help her stabilize her body. At the same time, he waved his sleeve and completely closed the door of the Pope's palace. Bibidon could show such a weak scene in front of him, but she couldn't let others see it, because it would damage her dignity as the Pope. "Teacher," Lu Yuan softly called out while holding onto Bibidon's arm. Just as Lu Yuan's voice fell, Bibidon suddenly threw herself into Lu Yuan's arms. Her delicate body trembled slightly, and tears kept falling from her eyes. At this moment, she wasn't the high and mighty Pope, but only a woman whose heart was hurt. A woman who needed comfort, that was all. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.